that could restrain the witch's outburst. If it was really as she guessed, Su Yu's existence would be really too important to them. Let's arrange for Lioli to go there tomorrow, and let her get used to taking care of Su Yu as soon as possible. Winnie was a little impatient. However, Yaxiang on the opposite side didn't seem very excited, and her expression became much more serious. What's wrong? Any other questions? If it's about those escaped slaves, let them run away. Let's get to the new camp as soon as possible. Winnie and Yaxiang had similar considerations. She was also vaguely worried that the group of slaves would be caught by the Black Snake clan, but there was no good plan at the moment. Everything had to be considered after they got to the new camp. No, Yaxiang shook her head, looking uncertain, and said, "It's about Su Yu." Winnie was stunned. What's wrong with him? Rescuing the trapped tribesmen should have been a happy thing. Yaxiang really didn't want to discourage Winnie, but she had to talk about Su Yu's matter. She could only sigh and say, Su Yu is already a first-class warrior. Time seemed to stand still, and all the sounds around disappeared. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Winnie opened her mouth slightly, not knowing what expression to make, except shock. Yaxiang continued. So what we should consider now is whether Su Yu will continue to stay here. A top-notch fighter. Winnie felt her hands tremble, unsure whether it was from excitement or worry. She and Yaxiang were born in the Crescent Moon tribe, and perhaps more than anyone else, they understood the power of warriors. When they left the Crescent Moon tribe, there were only 5 top-tier warriors. Such people have a place in any tribe or even alliance. When did it happen? Winnie asked with a trembling voice. Yaxiang, I broke through on the way back. Winnie's beautiful eyebrows were tangled for the first time, and the clear thoughts in her mind were tangled like a thread by this news. Yes, would such a person choose to stay in the tribe? Back then, he was able to stay because he had no other options, and he had enough power to control him. But what about now? The strongest person in the tribe is Yaxiang. How can he stay here? Supplies? Women? No matter which tribe Su Yu goes to, she can get several times more than what they can give. So what sufficient reason does she have to keep them here? Even if Su Yu packed up and left tomorrow, they would have no way to stop her. I can't keep it. In the end, Winnie chose to give up, her previous joy vanishing. They really had nothing to compare with others. If Su Yu wants to leave, let him go. There was no way to keep him anyway. At this moment, Lin came in with her head down, looking at the 2 sisters with dejected expressions in front of her with some confusion. She had just heard their conversation outside, so she said, You 2 are really worrying about nothing. Su Yu shouldn't leave. Lin sat down gently, looked at the 2 worried sisters, and smiled softly. People can become powerful, but their nature doesn't change easily. If he was a hedonist, why would he leave his original tribe? His original life must have been comfortable beyond our imagination. He chose to stay, taught the tribe members how to purify water without a single grudge, followed Yaxiang out hunting, and even risked his life to rescue Adwa and the others. What do you think he cared about? Lin spoke softly, and it seemed that it helped Winnie and Yaxiang, who were stuck in a dead end, to open up their hearts and no longer feel so depressed. He saved Kokoro and did so much for our people. Even if he really decides to leave, I will respect his thoughts. Lin's words touched Winnie, and she realized that she was being a bit selfish. She only considered the benefits Su Yu could bring to the tribe, but didn't consider the other person's thoughts. Indeed, the tribe needs him, but it is his right to stay or leave. There's no need to worry too much about it. Just do your best and give him the best treatment in the tribe. I still have to go pick up Adwa and the others. Let's talk about Su Yu's matter later. Yaxiang stood up and left the tent immediately. Lin approached Winnie, took her sister's hand, and smiled playfully. I might bother you tonight. Winnie's eyes lit up slightly, and she smiled. Is it because of Su Yu and Kukuluo? Well, the tent is too small, so I had no choice but to come find you. Lin nodded, then stretched and continued. He likes Kokoro very much. I can see that, which is why I feel at ease leaving my sister to him. It's okay, we sisters still care about these things. Winnie stretched out her hand to support her chin, her eyes twinkling like stars. Although the right to stay or leave is Su Yu's own, she should still try her best. She will notify the girl, Lioli, tomorrow. Let's call Yaxiang over tonight. We 3 sisters haven't slept together for a long time. Lin suddenly said. Winnie smiled, quietly hugged Lin, and nodded in agreement. Chapter 25, Pursuit 3. At dawn, Su Yu woke up from his sleep. He had slept too late last night, and was still a little sleepy. When he opened his eyes, Kokoro was packing things in the tent. Kokoro's favorability has been upgraded to admiration. According to the system introduction, characters in admiration status will automatically provide favorability value, similar to being left idle. Brother Suyu, you're awake. Seeing Suyu wake up, Kokoro walked over happily. Good boy, I'll pack up your things. You take a good rest. Suyu walked out of the tent and stretched a little. Most of the tribesmen had already started to break camp, and not far away, Lin and Yaxiang came over. Did you sleep well last night? Lin smiled gently. Now it was Suyu's turn to blush. She rubbed her nose and chuckled. You slept soundly. That's good. Kokoro and I will pack the things. Yaxiang wants to talk to you about something. Lin said and went into her tent. Yaxiang didn't waste any time and said directly, Adwa and the others have returned safely, but Winnie is worried that the escaped slaves will expose our whereabouts, so I plan to go back and find out what's going on. Do you want to come with us? Yaxiang looked at Suyu tentatively, feeling a little nervous. If Suyu refused, she might really want to leave. But it was obvious that she was worrying too much. Suyu touched her chin and thought about it, and felt that what Yaxiang said was right. After all, the migration speed of the tribe was slow. If the Black Snake people came looking for them, or caught the escaped slaves and learned more detailed information, they would most likely be caught up. Okay, let's call Lee and Aksu as well. Suyu nodded, thinking that it would be fine if that group of people didn't chase after them. But if they really came, then don't go back. Yaxiang's heart finally settled down. At this time, Lin and Kekluo also came out. Suyu turned around and touched Kekluo's head and told her that she was leaving. Although Kekluo was reluctant to leave, she hugged her for a while before letting go. The intimate scene between the two made Yaxiang feel inexplicably lost, but she quickly calmed down. Kokoro and Suyu have such a close relationship. Maybe it's really the same as what Lin said. That's not all. It's just right that I will teach them about traps and bows and arrows. In fact, Suyu also planned to train the tribesmen more on controlling their witch power. He had already discovered the biggest drawback of this group of witches. He has never had a deep understanding of his own magical powers. People with affinity to the earth element spend all their time digging holes. Lian Hao, who is friendly to the fire element, doesn't even know how to use the fireball and just wants to fight in close combat. It is difficult to wash the meat of animals that are affinity with water elements. The most outrageous one is Winnie, who is friendly to the wood element and is completely useless except for digging tree holes for herself to live in. Well, no wonder the fighting power of the witches in the tribe has not been improved. Without a systematic training method and the importance of elemental magic in combat, how could they possibly become stronger? Even if they managed to achieve the third awakening by chance, it would still be like wearing the thickest armor, taking the most severe blows, and being at the mercy of others. But these things cannot be rushed. To resolve the issues of the Black Snake clan and the new camp, Suyu plans to take it step by step, not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, and try to raise them to a higher level within a year. The explanation of traps and the making and use of bows and arrows is actually very simple. That is, the types and functions. As long as they can understand, it is easy to learn. I have to say, Suyu was right to call Aksu. Although this girl wasn't a witch, she was very clever. She quickly understood what Suyu said and could even apply it to other situations. It didn't take long for her to memorize the commonly used earth pit traps, noose traps, and fishing methods. Perhaps it is precisely because she is not a priestess that she focuses on hunting. Yaxiang listened quietly at the side. She was surprised, and, at the same time, an inexplicable throbbing in her heart became even stronger. Suyu stopped when he arrived at a place about 2 miles away from the original camp. The map radar did not show any humans around. Right here, Suyu pointed to the footprints left by the tribesmen in front of her. If the Black Snake clan finds the camp, they will definitely follow these traces to find us. Sister Yaxiang and Aksu, go find some thin bamboos around here. According to the bamboo information obtained from the precise search, Suyu gave directions to Yaxiang and Aksu. The two nodded and left. Lee, I'll draw a few places for you to dig holes. After this series of events, although not as crazy as Aksu, Lee no longer had any resistance to Suyu, and she couldn't even be arrogant anymore. She started to work according to the instructions given by Suyu. Suyu sat cross-legged on the side, watching Lee start to use magic power to separate the soil, and then said, Lee, you can separate and transfer the soil, but can you do it the other way around? The other way around? Lee tilted her cute little head. Suyu, Well, it's about condensing and solidifying the soil and then moving it instantly according to your will. Lee nodded thoughtfully. It's possible. I've tried it before, but it's slow and consumes a lot of magic power. I didn't think it was useful, so I never practiced it. Suyu was shocked and continued to ask, can it be done after solidification and then changing form? What does it mean to change form? It's about making the soil you control become what you want it to be. Suyu said this, gesturing with her hands in front of her chest. Cone, cuboid, etc. Lee thought for a long time before nodding and responding. It shouldn't be difficult. I can give it a try. Then, Lee used her magic power to imagine the cone described by Suyu in her mind. Slowly, the separated soil in the pit in front of her reaggregated, solidified, and deformed into the shape Lee wanted. A little longer, a little sharper. Suyu continued to guide. Good. Finally, the earth spike cone was completed. Suyu took it in his hand, looked at it for a few seconds, and nodded with satisfaction. Practice more in the future. Your current control speed is too slow. Huh? Is this still slow? Lee expressed confusion. Suyu couldn't help but roll her eyes. It took a minute, and by the time your earth spikes came out, the enemy had already run away. Enemy? Is this for combat? Lee's eyes lit up, and she instantly became interested. Well, as long as you can complete the steps, just now within 1 or 2 breaths, and then quickly change position and attack the enemy unexpectedly, the effect should be very good. The hardness of the earth spikes is probably related to the strength of your magic power and your ability to control it, so you need more practice. The hardness of this earth thorn is about the same as that of an egg. I get it. Lee was very happy to know, for the first time, that her ability could be used in combat, and her hands moved faster. Suyu, let's make the trap first. There will be plenty of time to practice later. Lee. Suyu could foresee that as long as Lee became proficient in her manipulation skills and her magic power was further improved, her power would be considerable whether in attack or defense. The elements of heaven and earth are natural forces, not something simple and harmless to humans and animals. Soon, Yaxiang and Axu returned with a full load. With a short knife Suyu had given Yaxiang, the process of cutting the bamboo into sections became much simpler. They set up the trap according to Suyu's instructions and then headed to the next location. Suyu had no limit to the number of traps he could set. Although it was difficult to fall for them again after being fooled, it was also a way to deter opponents and prevent them from moving forward rashly. Moreover, as long as Lee had excellent control, Suyu could create a completely indistinguishable earth pit. Between the earth pits, Suyu took the trouble to set up several noose traps. This way, she could effectively disrupt the opponent's dead end and make him lose sight of the big picture. Unsure if the black snakes would pursue them, Yaxiang decided to stay in the forest for a few more days. Axu and Lee didn't object. They could rely on hunting for food, and sleeping in caves or makeshift tents wasn't a problem. Over the past few days, Suyu's been guiding Yaxiang further, helping her understand the fire element more thoroughly. Honestly, Yaxiang has become somewhat numb, feeling as if Suyu knows everything and can do it all. 4 or 5 years have passed since she began understanding her own magical powers, and she still hasn't reached the depth of Suyu's understanding. The first time she threw out the flame in the form of energy, Yaxiang was so happy that she couldn't sleep all night. Like Lee, controlling her magical power and increasing its strength required practice and diligent training. As a warrior of her tribe, Yaxiang naturally understood this. She would wake up early almost every day to practice, and would not stop until her magical power was severely depleted. Only Axu devoted herself to studying the art of hunting traps and archery, and never turned back from this path. Suyu even thought about teaching her how to make a repeating crossbow in the future. As for the musket, it was too far-fetched. It was unclear whether there was gunpowder in this world. Just like that, in a blink of an eye, 8 days passed quietly, and Suyu began to worry. For no other reason than that. Ever since she taught him the knowledge points about the sub-incense element, this woman would tirelessly stay in her tent every night, returning very late. Not to mention that she was beautiful and had a hot body. She always came very close to him. This was too much. Suyu had to endure torture almost every night and felt that being a man was so difficult. At first, Axu and Lee would come over to join in the fun, but after 2 days, the 2 girls stayed quietly in their own tents and were so well behaved. Suddenly, I wanted to go back to the camp. On the morning of the 9th day of Suyu's worries, things finally took a turn for the better. An orange-red light flashed on the map radar. The Black Snake clan was indeed chasing them. Suyu woke up Yaxiang, along with Aksu and Li. The four of them left their temporary resting place and climbed to the highest point of the forest. From here, you can slightly see the edge of the camp, where a large number of heads appeared and a group of people were searching the camp. Suyu clearly saw that there were a familiar fat man and a skinny monkey in the crowd. They're the second leader of the Black Snake clan, Song Dai, and the third leader, Song Daxiao, the fat bald pig. As for Song Dazhong, he was still on his way. Second brother, it seems that this side is correct. Those slaves did not deceive us. Song Laosen touched his bright forehead and said, Song Lao es niet zinisteli. Damn it, we've been searching for ages, searching dozens of miles around, and finally found their lair. It's well hidden, no wonder we never noticed. In the past, when the Black Snakes went hunting, they'd only ventured 20 miles into the mountains at most, still dozens of miles from Winnie's camp. No wonder they'd been nowhere to be seen. If it weren't for that time escorting Vero to the trading tribe, they really wouldn't have run into this neighbor they'd known for over a year. When will the boss and young Master Song arrive? Song Lao asked loudly, and a thin servant immediately ran over. Headmaster, according to their speed, the great chief and his men should have received the message by now. They're searching the area to the west, which is quite a distance from here. The earliest they can arrive is tomorrow morning. As for the young master from the Crescent Moon tribe, he should be here around this time as well. Good. Song Lao rolled his eyes and pointed at a few people. You go patrol this area. If you see anyone suspicious, come back and tell me immediately. The rest of you can rest here. There are still some tents left. Pick a spot for yourselves. Yes, Patriarch. The few people who received the order immediately picked up their iron swords and left. Chief, we found a strange tree hole over there. Suddenly, a member of the Black Snake tribe came to report. Tree hole? Let's go and take a look. Song Lao and Song Lao San followed the guidance of the tribesmen and came to the place where Winnie originally lived. Hey, it's quite clean. It should be where their elders or clan leaders live. A faint feminine fragrance could be smelled inside. Song Lao was delighted and immediately drove out the tribe members who tried to make a scene inside. Tell the tribe members that this place is for young Master Song to live in. No one is allowed to touch it. The Black Snakes were busy building fires, sleeping, and some were slaughtering the wild animals they had caught along the way. As nomads, they were naturally free, so they soon became noisy. Suyu and the others crouched on the top of the mountain, observing quietly. A quick count revealed about 40 of them. Judging from the number of people present, they probably hadn't all arrived yet. Now that he was a first-rate warrior, it shouldn't be difficult to wipe out this whole group of people. But to be on the safe side, Suyu held back. What should we do now? Kill them directly? Yaxiang was still the same as always. Coupled with Suyu's current strength, she felt that there was no need to play house with this group of people. Wait a minute. Suyu glanced at the lone Black Snake tribe member who had already walked out some distance and said, Catch that guy and ask him about the specific situation before deciding what to do next. Okay. Yaxiang now completely and unconsciously regarded Suyu as her backbone. Without hesitation, she followed Suyu down the mountain. Aksu and Li stayed on the top of the mountain to continue observing the movements of the Black Snake clan, in case of any changes at any time. How could an ordinary Black Snake tribe member be a match for Yaxiang as he was groaning as he passed by the bushes? He was knocked unconscious by a frying pan thrown by Yaxiang, who suddenly appeared. The reason why Suyu did not attack was that he was afraid that he would not be able to control his strength properly and kill the person in one blow. Suyu, this is easy to use and the sound is nice too. Yaxiang raised the corners of her mouth slightly and touched the hard frying pan again, looking particularly fond of it. Good-sounding melon is good. Suyu smiled and said, If you like it, you can use it first. However, Yaxiang shook her head and handed it back. You have already given me a dagger. I cannot take this. Suyu understood Yaxiang's stubbornness and took it without hesitation. She found Yaxiang's reluctant look quite cute. Although Suyu no longer needed a frying pan, it was originally used for cooking after all. After bringing the unconscious Black Snake tribe member to the top of the mountain and waking him up with a splash of cold water, Yaxiang put a sharp dagger on his neck. I'll kill you if you dare to shout. The Black Snake man, realizing his current situation, was immediately terrified. A few days ago, he'd accidentally fallen into a pit and nearly been crushed to death by his tribe. He'd barely gotten over the trauma when he was captured again, wondering how he could be so unlucky. The sharp blade's chill sent a wave of cold through the man's body, and his legs trembled. A foul smell emanated from beneath the hide. "Tell me. I'll tell you everything, just don't kill me." The man immediately expressed his true feelings. Yaxiang frowned and felt a little uncomfortable in her nose, but she had to continue the interrogation. "How many of you are here?" Suyu squatted in front of him and asked. 70. More than 70 people from the tribe are here. The tribe leader's people have received the news and should be here tomorrow. Are they all here? Yes, except for the injured ones who can't fight. Everyone will come. The man responded in panic, his eyes evasive. Your eyes are flashing a little too quickly. Suyu thought for a moment and said coldly, Is that all? That's all. The man swallowed hard and wanted to nod, but was a little hesitant. Even Yaxiang could see that something was wrong, and she glanced at Suyu. Suyu indeed smiled playfully. I forgot to tell you, we have a witch who can see through lies. Yaxiang and the other two were stunned when they heard this, and looked straight at Suyu. You does have the ability, but she is not here. Men's mouths are full of lies. Looking at Suyu lying without blushing, Yaxiang couldn't help but wonder if this boy had ever lied to her. But no matter what, this scare had an immediate effect. The Black Snake Man was so frightened that he almost cried and begged for mercy immediately. I just remembered, there's another person. Suyu, who? He came from the Crescent Moon tribe. I heard he's the son of a great witch. I don't know his name, but the tribe leaders all call him Young Master Song. Crescent Moon tribe? Suyu couldn't help but be stunned. This was unexpected. After hearing these words, Yaxiang's muscles tensed even more, and her hand holding the knife became a little unsteady. The sharp blade slightly scratched a thin bloody mark on the neck of the Black Snake Man. Big sister, be gentle, it's almost cut. The smell from the man's lower body became stronger. How many people have come, and how strong are they? Suyu continued to ask. 3. The clan leader told us to be more restrained, saying that Young Master Song is a first-class warrior, and one of the two guards is also first-class. If we make the other party angry, we will be dead. After hearing this, Suyu's pupils shrank slightly. 2 first-rate fighters, this is not something that second-rate fighters can compare. After asking some detailed questions, Suyu gave Yaxiang a look. Yaxiang understood, exerted a little force with her hand, and then told Li and Axu to throw away the man's body. I think I know who that song is. After a long silence, Yaxiang slowly said, Suyu, you may not know that Winnie, Lin, and I are all from the Crescent Moon tribe. We were born there, and our fathers were warriors of the Crescent Moon tribe. Winnie's father was even a great witch of the Crescent Moon tribe. Suyu could see the births of the 3 people from the system, but it was the first time she heard that Winnie's father was a great witch. Suyu also became interested and listened quietly. And the reason we were able to break away from the Crescent Moon tribe was because Winnie's father bought it with his own freedom. There are also rifts between the great shamans. This man, surnamed Song, is the child of a great shaman who is at odds with Winnie's father. He was once hailed as the most gifted genius in the Crescent Moon tribe and was very powerful. I didn't expect him to become a first-class warrior so quickly. Yaxiang raised her head, hesitated for a moment, and said, Suyu, they have 2 first-rate fighters. We must tell Winnie this news so that she can prepare early. Indeed, 2 first-rate warriors could be a devastating force for the current tribe. There's nothing wrong with being cautious, Suyu nodded, and looking at Axu and Li, who were also a little scared, she couldn't help but laugh. Believe me, as long as you can grow up and train yourselves according to my instructions, even first-class warriors will not be your opponents. But we can't ignore Sister Yaxiang's concerns right now. Suyu pondered for a moment and said, I will stay and continue to investigate the situation. Sister Yaxiang, you go back with him first. Alone, so you could do whatever he wanted without any scruples. He already knew the power of a first-rate warrior, and it wasn't as insurmountable as he'd imagined. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Yaxiang's eyes were full of worry. It's okay. I'm a first-rate fighter after all. If you can't beat me, I can still escape. Suyu shook her head. Really? But if Axu and the others were there, he wouldn't be able to run away so peacefully. Li and Axu wanted to express their opinions, but Yaxiang glared at them. She looked at Suyu's determined eyes and finally sighed. Don't be so stubborn. There are people in the tribe waiting for you. Don't worry, I'm very afraid of death. Suyu Ismail. Afterwards, Yaxiang took Li and Axu away from the top of the mountain. Standing alone on the desolate mountain top, Suyu felt a little lonely, sighing. What he didn't expect was that within 2 minutes, Yaxiang ran back again. Why did you come back? Suyu was a little dumbfounded. I'm staying with you because I'm worried that you might do something stupid. Just let Aksu and Li go back. Yaxiang puffed out her chest and spoke righteously. I trusted you to do something stupid. In any case, with the company of a beautiful woman, Suyu felt much better. The two men observed the movements of the black snake people for a while, and after finding that there was nothing abnormal about them, they went back into the tent. Yaxiang sat cross-legged opposite Suyu, staring at her so hard that Suyu felt creepy. This woman seemed to be struggling with something. Her brows sometimes relaxed and sometimes wrinkled. Suyu couldn't guess what was going on, but she was sure it wasn't a simple matter. Chapter 26. Pursuit 4. Night fell quickly. There was an eerie atmosphere in the small tent on the top of the mountain, but the camp at the foot of the mountain was bustling with activity. The people of this world lived so casually. Even in someone else's camp, as long as they were well-fed and watered, they'd still have a good time. They were truly heartless. There were also young women in the Black Snake tribe. At this moment, they gathered around the campfire, constantly twisting their waists. The animal skins couldn't cover their seductive bodies. The men's eyes blazed, wondering whose tent they would sleep in tonight. It's almost time. In the dark night, Suyu's eyes shone brightly. After seeing the Black Snake clan gradually calm down and become peaceful, he finally took action. Are you planning to set a fire? Yaxiang half knelt beside Suyu and licked her slightly dry lips. Well, teach them a lesson, they can still be useful. Although Suyu is already a top-tier warrior, he still wouldn't be too arrogant. After all, tomorrow he might face a combined attack from two top-tier warriors. The presence of these black snakes was ultimately a nuisance. Suyu looked at the cautious Yaxiang and smiled. This woman was getting smarter and smarter. What do you want me to do? Yaxiang nodded, not noticing the smile on Suyu's lips. Her eyes were always wandering around her camp. Just follow me. Suyu carried the bow and arrow on his back and blended into the gray moonlight. When they were about 200 meters away from the camp, Suyu stopped and the two of them squatted in the bushes. Suyu continued. You all know the uses of bows and arrows. They can be used for hunting, shooting enemies, and in fact, they can also be used to set fires. As he said that, Suyu pulled out a wooden arrow and looked at Yaxiang. How's the Skyfire elemental training going? A proud smile appeared on Yaxiang's face. Very good. Then try attaching the flame to the arrow. Suyu explained, and Yaxiang immediately understood. The flame's magical power condensed at her fingertips, the size of a finger, swaying in the wind. She lightly brushed her finger across the arrowhead, and the flame was left on it. It's your turn this time. Suyu handed the bow and arrow to Yaxiang. The woman's eyes instantly lit up with fighting spirit. She had originally thought Suyu would no longer need her, and had felt a little disappointed, but now her mood improved significantly. Following her usual practice, she drew her bow and arrow, using her magical power to increase the strength of her arm. She aimed the flaming wooden arrow at the tent where the camp had once been, and with a whoosh, it shot out. Aim for the flammable hay. I know, Yaxiang hummed. In a blink of an eye, several more arrows were fired. The flames of magical power were vastly different from ordinary flames. Even if they came into contact with water, they would not be easily extinguished. Only when the magical power in the flames was consumed would they gradually dissipate. Soon, the tents in the camp were crackling with flames. The black snakes had barely fallen asleep when they caught a familiar whiff of burning. It was a scent they knew all too well. Their camp had been destroyed a few days earlier. Opening their eyes, they were met with a wave of heat and flames. They sprang to their feet, but this wasn't the swamp they'd been in before, and there was no water nearby to put out the fire. The smoke and flames knocked some unconscious, burying them in the flames. Those who woke early were so frightened, they quickly left the burning area, weapons in hand, and surveyed their surroundings with vigilance. The camp suddenly became lively again, but this time it turned into shouts and howls for help. Soon, Song Lao Air and Song Lao San rushed over from the treehouse. The treehouse was the most comfortable house in the entire camp, so they naturally slept in it. Looking at the familiar scene before them, their faces could not help but gloomy and gnashing of teeth. There's no need to put out the fire. Just find them for me. Those women must be hiding outside. Song Lao Air made a spitting sound and started shouting. It wasn't his camp to begin with, so why would he bother putting out a fire? Furthermore, if he captured those women and gave them to young Master Song, perhaps he'd be so pleased he'd take them back to the Crescent Moon tribe, and life would definitely be much easier. Not all black snakes enjoyed the freedom of the outdoors, with meat to eat, clothes to wear, and women to sleep with. Who would want to live in the wilderness all day, exposed to wind and rain, and worry about being attacked by a powerful tribe? The reason he gathered these wanderers into a group was to make life easier in the future. Young Master Song of the Crescent Moon tribe is a bridge. Song Lao Air believes that as long as he can climb up, his future will be guaranteed. Fuck brotherhood, fuck Song Dajong. Living well is the real good. How could he give up such a good opportunity now? Second brother, the eldest brother and young Master Song haven't arrived yet. Are there only a few of us? Third brother Song touched his bald head and hesitated. After all, he still had a psychological trauma from the last time he was treated badly by Su Yu and Yaxiang. Before Song Lao, San could finish. He was interrupted by Song Lao Air. What's wrong with these few people, Lao San? If you're afraid, just go back to the treehouse. When I've made a contribution, young Master Song will take me back to the Crescent Moon tribe to eat, drink, and sleep well. Don't be envious. When Song Lao San heard this, he rubbed his head even harder. Oh my God, why didn't I think of that? The boss kept telling us not to be impulsive and wait for them to come. Could it be that he was afraid that we would take away his credit? Thinking of this, Song Lao San also made up his mind and said, "Okay, I'll listen to you. We'll do whatever you say. It's just a few women, fuck them." But before he could finish his words, a wooden arrow flew through his head and pierced his forehead with a puff. Perhaps it hadn't penetrated, or perhaps it was because Song Lao San was fat and had a hard skull. Blood immediately flowed from his forehead. Song Lao San was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. Who is it? Song Lao Air was the closest, and he shuddered, his dagger trembling in his hand. He couldn't see where the wooden arrow came from, so he could only step back. Several Black Snake warriors also heard the news and began to guard in front of the injured Song Lao San. Song Lao Air and Song Lao San were originally third-rate warriors, possessing some skills. Otherwise, how could they have become leaders of the Ronin group? However, ever since the three brothers formed an alliance and founded the Black Snake clan, they began to become lazy. Living a life of luxury and neglecting exercise, their strength plummeted. Song Lao San even became overweight and his hair fell out. In their earlier years, they might have still had the will to fight and rise to power, but now, their courage has faded, leaving only a fear of death. Song Lao Air, who had just been thinking about capturing someone and stealing the credit, was completely daunted by this arrow. He didn't care about Song Lao San's life or death, and kept retreating until a cold, hard object pressed against his lower back. He suddenly froze and dare not move anymore. "Are you one of the patriarchs of the Black Snake clan?" A woman's cold voice came from behind. Yes, yes. Song Lao's voice trembled, and his thin body looked a little pitiful at the moment. "Chief," the Black Snake tribe members naturally noticed something was wrong, and more than 30 of them gathered around the treehouse. Some even groped in the shadows, attempting to attack from the side and rescue the chief, until a young man slowly walked out from the side of the treehouse again, holding a black frying pan and walking out with a comfortable look on his face. Originally, Su Yu had intended to kill them all, but after setting the fire, he suddenly changed his mind. Winnie's tribe was too weak now, with little to show for its combat power, population, or resources. So, he had been considering how to maximize benefits with the least possible time investment. Combat power, population, and resources, any one of them requires time accumulation and persistent training, but these three things can also be obtained through another method. That's annexation. Throughout history, this has been the simplest and most violent method. As for the methods of annexation, they're nothing more than negotiation based on interests and direct suppression by force. After thinking for a long time, Su Yu asked Yaxiang to wait for an opportunity. The panic caused by the wooden arrow made Song Lao instinctively retreat and move closer to the treehouse. This was something Su Yu did not expect, and the plan became simpler as a result. Since becoming a first-rate warrior, Su Yu's inner strength has begun to assimilate into his sorcery. He only needs to think, and the pressure of a first-rate warrior's force sinks deeply into everyone's heart. Third-rate warriors are better off, but ordinary black snakes are already shaking with trembling legs, wanting to kneel down. This is the unbridgeable gap between second-rate and first-rate. The sheer intimidation of sorcery alone is enough to make the weak unable to resist. First, a first-rate warrior. Not only the Black Snake clan members, but also Song Lao Air and Song Lao San were swallowing hard. They never dreamed that the boy who was surrounded and escaped by them some time ago would become so powerful in the blink of an eye. "Get out of the way," Suyu came to the three black snake warriors who were protecting Song Lao, San, and said softly. One of these three men was already a top-tier, third-rate warrior. Even though the clan leader had lost his former bravery, he still couldn't bring himself to betray him. The other two companions exchanged a glance, then subconsciously took a step away, their iron swords in hand. Suyu took a look at this man in his 30s who was not afraid of intimidation with great interest. And some blood. You're pretty good. Suyu smiled and slammed the frying pan in her hand. The man felt a bang on his forehead, looked at the stars in the sky, and fell down. The force was just right, and he didn't die. Song Lao San was so frightened that he was grabbed by Suyu with one hand, dragged out, and thrown at the feet of Song Lao Air. The power of the first-rate warrior was so overwhelming that even Anyo, a powerful member of his own tribe, was defeated in one blow. The restless black snake tribe members were now completely quieted. However, they were unsure of what the young man in front of them was going to do. Do you want to live? Suyu suddenly said to the two confused clan leaders. Ido, Ido. Song Lao Air's forehead was covered in sweat, while Song Lao San's forehead was covered in a mixture of sweat and blood, with a fishy smell all over his body. The two men answered tremblingly. Suyu turned around and looked at the nervous and helpless black snake people again, and suddenly smiled and said, "It's easy to survive. How about we make a deal?" "What deal?" "I can give you whatever you want, as long as you don't kill me." Song Lao San answered immediately, while Song Lao Air's eyes rolled around, with evil thoughts boiling in his heart, and no one knew what he was thinking. Suyu nodded and said, "My deal is very fair. What I'm trading is your lives. If you want to survive, you need to exchange something of equal value. As the saying goes, one life for another. As the clan leader, your life is naturally more valuable. How about this? 10 Black Snake Tribe members in exchange for one life, regardless of gender. Of course, it can't all be men. I need to take all the women here unconditionally." Okay, you can pick any one of these people." Song Lao San responded almost without thinking when he heard the deal. Song Lao Air hesitated. His brain was faster than Song Lao San's pig. The young man in front of him seemed to have a simple request, but it was actually digging into their roots. The Black Snake clan only had about 80 members, with about 20 women. Right now, out of the 40 or so in front of him, there were nearly 17 or 18 women. 20 Black Snake clan members for 2 lives was still acceptable to them. But if all the women were handed over, Song Lao Air could imagine that within a month, the Black Snake clan would begin to disintegrate. Women are warriors who can participate in battles. They are the core responsible for the reproduction and strength of the ethnic group, and are also a necessary condition for maintaining the stability of an ethnic group. An all-male tribe is indeed much more powerful than its peers. But how can this continue? Disintegration is imminent. Even in trading tribes, the proportion of male slaves is higher than that of female slaves, and their prices are much lower than those of females. This is a sharp contrast. This young man seemed to have let them go, but once he agreed, their Black Snake clan would be on the verge of disintegration. But which is more important, your own life or the future of your community? The answer is obvious. Women, come out. And you, if you're chosen, follow him. Song Lao San roared, and the Black Snake clan was stunned. He was selling them out just like that? Just to save your lives? "Chief, we are warriors, not slaves." A few hot-blooded young men shouted immediately. As soon as one person spoke, more people began to shout. "Shut the fuck up. I'm the clan leader, and I have the final say." Feeling that Yaxiang's dagger had pierced his skin, even Song Lao Air started cursing. The crowd was silent again, but many of the eyes looking at the Song brothers had changed. Suyu had a bright smile on his face. He looked at the members of the Black Snake clan and said, "Women, come out first. Don't think about running away if you want to be shot by this." He suddenly pulled out the wooden arrow from Song Lao San's forehead. The fat pig wailed and quickly covered his bleeding forehead with his hands. "Really tough," Suyu praised in her heart. The bloody scene instantly dispelled the women's wild thoughts. One after another, they walked out obediently and stood aside according to Suyu's instructions. There were 18 people in total, tall, short, fat, thin, beautiful, and ugly. Compared with Winnie's people, they had no fighting power. They all looked at Suyu nervously, with helpless eyes, and occasionally stole a few glances at their own people. I want to go there too. And me. Chapter 27, Pursuit 5. As Suyu had expected, before he could even start, several Black Snake men came out. They glared at their former leader with resentment, then stood before the women. Among them were their own women, or perhaps the women they loved. After about 10 minutes, the crowd finally quieted down. 13 men had stepped forward, while the others seemed hesitant. After all, in this world, being sold meant being a slave, and they knew better than anyone the fate and treatment of slaves. By the way, those who are willing to do so are not counted. I will pick 20 more myself, but it's a pity that there don't seem to be enough people. What else could he do at this time? He could only remain silent in anger. There are only 46 people in this group, including the women and the 13 who were given away for free, so there are only 15 people left now. It would be strange if this was possible. Yaxiang was also stunned. This was the first time she had seen such a way of annexing tribes. The people in this world hadn't evolved so much cunning, especially the lower-class tribesmen. As long as they could eat and clothe themselves and survive, it didn't matter which tribe they were in. The slaves in Winnie's tribe had previously escaped because they were too poor and worried about being sacrificed by the witches. Otherwise, why would they risk their lives to escape? All right, you two can go now. Su Yue nodded in satisfaction. Song Lao, Air, and Song Lao, San were, as if they had been pardoned, almost wishing they could grow 2 more legs and run away. This made the Black Snake clan even more disappointed. Their clan leader was such a coward, no one could be happy. Sister Yaxiang, you go. Looking at the 2 black shadows, one fat and one thin, disappearing into the night, Suyu suddenly spoke close to Yaxiang's ear. The man scent was so strong that Yaxiang's face turned slightly red, and she nodded and followed. Naturally, those 2 couldn't stay, but Suyu didn't want to kill them in front of the black snakes. This would give people the impression of being untrustworthy. If their new leader was a man of his word, how could they really stay wholeheartedly in the future? Living in fear every day, it was inevitable that they would take risks like a runaway slave. All right, you've now left the Black Snake clan. From now on, you're members of my Black Rose clan. Suyu began her first round of guidance. You know, many of them are witches, but don't worry too much. I'll have the clan leader arrange a separate camp for you. You don't have to hand the food and other supplies you hunt every day. That's all earned through your own hard work. Although the clan leader exchanges life for yours, and you are slaves, this can be changed. Just like the 13 warriors who voluntarily joined us at the beginning, they will directly become guards of that camp, not slaves. Wow. At these words, the eyes of all the black snakes present widened in shock. They had originally thought that being sold would mean they would lose their freedom and become slaves under daily supervision. But the reality was quite the opposite. The 13 warriors who had taken the initiative at the beginning were extremely excited. The 14 warriors who followed were filled with regret. As for the one who was knocked unconscious by Suyu with a frying pan at the beginning, he was not included. Suyu's chicken soup continues. Women don't have to worry. Although your movement areas are temporarily restricted, your bodies are still free. I will not give you away to strangers like slaves. You can still live with your previous families. When you truly integrate into our tribe and make contributions to the tribe, you will be able to get rid of your status as slaves. Now, the women were completely relieved, not to mention their original husbands, who were almost grateful to the young man in front of them. At the same time, the reminder sounds in my mind kept coming. The favorability from a new female tribesman has increased a lot. Suyu appointed the new tribesmen as captains and asked them to supervise the 15 people who followed. Now those people were really regretting their decision, but fortunately, there was still a chance. As long as they contributed more to the tribe, they could change their status and even get promoted. Having a goal brings motivation. Compared to their days in the Black Snake clan, where every day is just hunting, reporting to the clan leader, and sharing a little reward, they live like salted fish. Although such days are free, they don't feel any meaning. Listening to Su Yu's explanation, the eyes of this group of people became brighter, as if they had seen another different life. Soon, Yaxiang returned, the blood on her dagger already wiped clean. Seeing the return of the witch, some of the former Black Snake tribe members guessed something, but the 2 tribe leaders no longer had any thoughts about them. You will continue to sleep here today. Tomorrow morning, Song Dajong of the Black Snake tribe and the people of the Crescent Moon tribe will come over. When the time comes, just do as I say. This will be your first mission after joining the tribe. Afterwards, I will reward everyone based on their contribution. Do you have confidence? Suyu's voice was very loud, and those men, who were worried that their wives would not be treated like slaves, started yelling at the top of their lungs. Have! It's a good thing to have someone take the lead. Do you have confidence? Have. Soon, a chorus of shouts echoed throughout the camp. At daybreak, Suyu led some of the Black Snake people to the top of the mountain. Most of the dozen or so people left in the camp were warriors with a strong desire to surrender. About an hour later, in the dim morning light, a group of dark heads appeared in the field of vision. Song Dezhong, along with the remaining 30 or so Black Snakes, and Song Sheng's team, were rapidly advancing towards the camp. Since the Black Snakes were small in number, Song Sheng had transferred 50 warriors from the Crescent Moon tribe to quickly locate the witches' hiding camp. 10 of them were second-rate, and 40 were third-rate, making them a formidable force. After following Xinu to the camp, Song Dazhong's pupils shrank, and Song Sheng was also slightly stunned. Why were there only so few Black Snake people stationed at the camp? After Song Dazhong shouted loudly, more than a dozen people gathered around. What's going on? Song Dazhong looked unfriendly and had some vague guesses in his mind. Reporting to the tribe leader, the other 2 tribe leaders discovered the witches' camp, so they set off first. The Black Snake tribe pointed out the direction according to Su Yu's instructions. Those 2 idiots. He couldn't really say they were stupid. Song Dazhong simply wanted to curse. He had already guessed that this must have been the idea of the second brother. After all, how could he not know what the second brother was thinking? The second brother wasn't content to be just a small leader in the Black Snake clan. He wanted to climb up and make a name for himself in the larger tribes. That was why he had encouraged the third brother to contact the Crescent Moon clan and become their subordinate. It is better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. The second brother would not care about such a principle, so Song Dazhong thinks they are stupid. When did they set out? Song Sheng also understood the reason and was delighted. Now that he had found the enemy camp, he would have a lot less trouble. As for the intrigues between the 3 patriarchs of the Black Snake clan, he didn't care. In reply to young Master Song, after hearing the news, the 2 clan leaders set off and have been gone for 2 hours. They get up quite early. Song Dazhong gritted his teeth. How far is the witches' camp from here? Song Sheng continued to ask. According to Xinu, it's a half-day walk. It's hidden deep enough. Song Sheng's eyes turned cold, and he immediately ordered, "Listen, clan warriors, rest for a while, and then set off." They had traveled all night and naturally needed a break. The Crescent Moon tribe warriors formed a group of their own, not even glancing at the Black Snake tribe members. After all, the gap between them was too great. The Black Snake tribe members felt slighted, but dared not speak out, and obediently waited for the tribe leader's orders. After resting for half an hour, the team of nearly 100 people, led by Song Sheng and Song Dezhong, finally marched towards the mountains in a mighty manner. We're almost at the first trap. Su Yu was observing from the top of the mountain. He ordered all the newly recruited tribesmen to hide behind him. After all, the ears and eyes of first-class warriors were too sensitive. If they were discovered, things would become troublesome. Gosh, what the hell? My legs! The first trap finally triggered. Since it was a human trap, Su Yu had instructed Li to reinforce the pit's surface. When several people stepped on it, the weight finally became too much to bear, and it collapsed completely. The soldiers following closely behind, before they could figure out what was happening, missed their steps and fell down one after another. The sharp bamboo thorns instantly pierced their bodies, and blood splattered everywhere. Although the person who fell last was much less seriously injured, he was so scared that he became incontinent on the spot and trembled all over. The situation in the pit was too horrific, with blood splattered everywhere and organs flowing out. Anyone who saw it would feel nauseous, and they would even vomit out the little meat they had just eaten in the morning. Song Sheng, standing at the edge of the pit, also frowned. Using traps to kill the enemy. This strategy, do they think we're beasts? But it must be said, it's quite a concept, and it's even more worth learning. He silently memorized everything he saw, intending to inform his father upon returning to the tribe. As for the dead Black Snake tribe members and his own people, they were nothing to him. Song Dazhong, let your people go in front. Although the death of a few clan members is not a big deal, Song Sheng has to favor his own side after all. Otherwise, it will be difficult to explain to his father after returning to the clan. Song Dazhong was slightly stunned. He was very reluctant in his heart, but he still nodded. Looking back, he suddenly felt doubtful. Something was wrong. Why did it feel like someone was missing? There was no time for him to think deeply about these things. Even if Song Dazhong felt that something was wrong, he could only continue to follow the trend. The Black Snake tribe members looked at each other. With the situation so dire, who would dare to rush forward so carelessly? After the tribe leader gave the order, they could only nervously clear the way step by step. The missing members of the Black Snake tribe naturally retreated intentionally during the team's march and finally hid themselves. Suyu had already made preparations for this. In the face of death, Song Sheng would definitely give priority to letting the Black Snake people fill the hole. He was unwilling to see his newly recruited tribesmen die in vain. The Black Snake tribe was small to begin with, and after 3 traps, the 30 or so people were basically wiped out. In the end, only 8 or 9 people were left, all of them wounded and unable to move. They were left at the back of the team, completely abandoned by Song Sheng. Master, this isn't a solution. As another trap was set, 8 or 9 people from the Crescent Moon tribe were killed. The warrior who had been following Song Sheng frowned and said, Chapter 28, Pursuit 6. Then do you have a better idea? Song Sheng's eyes turned slightly cold. He had long observed that these traps were flawlessly crafted. The soil covering the pit's surface completely blended with the original ground. This was definitely the work of a witch with an affinity for soil elements. If the tribe members with the ability to detect had found a solution, they could only watch. Of course, it's not that there is no countermeasure at all. As long as he takes action himself, this trap will not pose a threat to him. Young master, let me do it. Finally, another first-class warrior who was responsible for protecting Song Sheng stood up. Song Sheng could watch his tribesmen die, but he couldn't do it because he had friends among these tribesmen. Okay, go ahead. Song Sheng nodded. The man's name was Song San, a warrior who had climbed all the way up from the bottom, covered in blood. After he reached the forefront of the team, the tribesmen cast grateful glances at him. Suyu, who was hiding on the top of the mountain, also saw this scene, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. It's a good opportunity for me to see the strength of the top warriors of the Crescent Moon tribe. Yaxiang, who was hiding on the side, also opened her eyes wide and silently paid attention to everything in front of her. As a first-class warrior, Suyu could clearly see the magic power released by Song San. It was a pure white force. Song San was isolated in front, and a deep footprint would appear under his feet with every step. This was a test of the trap. Unfortunately, there are only 3 traps left. After all, making traps requires a lot of bamboo, and Li's magic power limit must also be considered, so there are not too many. In the blink of an eye, Song San was lucky enough to step on it. He suddenly lost his balance and fell into the pit. However, just as Suyu predicted, the bamboo thorns failed to cause any damage. Even Song San's external magical power could not penetrate. Magical power can cover the whole body and become a kind of defense. This is also a kind of magical power. However, doing so would drain his magical power even faster, which was one of the reasons why Song Sheng had stood by and watched. A first-rate warrior was indeed powerful, but once his magical power was depleted, what difference did he make from a second-rate warrior? As the son of a great wizard, Song Sheng naturally wouldn't gamble his life. Compared to him, the lives of these lower-class people were worth nothing. After destroying 3 traps in a row, sweat dripped from Song San's forehead. His linen shirt was visibly wet. Suyu knew the exact number of traps, but Song San didn't. For the safety of his people, he had to constantly expend his magical power and physical strength to explore the path ahead. I believe that in about half an hour, Song San will be finished. Suyu secretly calculated this in her mind, while Yaxiang beside her was speechless with shock. In her eyes, Suyu had become an omnipotent great wizard, even more powerful than a great wizard. After all, even a great wizard couldn't do it. With a few traps a grasp of people's hearts, he could wear down a top-notch warrior. Suyu's profile seemed even more handsome, and her heart beat faster. As long as Song San is scrapped, Suyu will be even less afraid of a one-on-one fight. Sure enough, after exploring for about a mile, Song San finally ran out of magic power and sat down powerlessly. There are no bamboo thorn traps in this area of more than a mile, except for a few nooses. It must be safe. At this time, Suyu led his clansmen and followed from the side. Seeing that Song San had lost his fighting ability, he gave the order to attack. There were only about 40 people from the Crescent Moon tribe left on the other side. Suyu rushed out first, charging straight at the 10 second-rate warriors in the crowd with lightning speed. As long as they could kill them first, the pressure on Yaxiang and the others would be infinitely reduced. Someone, cheer up, everyone! The people of the Crescent Moon tribe were immediately energized. Years of training had enabled them to quickly engage in battle. Song Shung looked disdainful and stood aside, leisurely watching. He had 10 second-rate warriors with him, and the rest were third-rate. With such a force, he could easily take on a tribe of 100 or so. He had also deduced that the witches' tribe had no more than second-rate warriors. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been forced to flee for their lives by a useless tribe like the Black Snakes. But the confident members of the Crescent Moon tribe discovered something was wrong as soon as they started fighting. What the hell is that on the other side? The dozens of people behind them had just rushed out when a young man in strange clothes appeared before their eyes like a ghost. This speed was too fast. They were almost defenseless and were hit on the forehead by the frying pan in Su Yu's hand. Pung, 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 pung. There were continuous crisp sounds, and 5 or 6 figures in the crowd spiraled up into the sky, fainting without even a wailing sound. In just a blink of an eye, only 2 of the 10 second-rate warriors were left. Just as Su Yu was about to attack the last 2, a huge and thick magical power took the blow of his frying pan. Buzz. The buzzing sound hurt the ears of people around. A familiar voice also sounded in Su Yu's mind. Ding. Defeat second-rate fighters consecutively for the first time. Special reward. Witchcraft skill. Serious punch. Serious punch. Gather the magic power at one point and suddenly burst out with huge punching force. And the power grows as the magic power increases. Wow, nice skills. Without having time to look further, Su Yu and the other party both felt the aftereffects of the pure witchcraft power and each took a step back. The person who came was indeed Song Shung. At the moment, Song Shung was the only one who could carry the frying pan on his shoulders. Yaxiang and the others had already joined the melee. When Song Shung saw Yaxiang, a strange light flashed in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. He had guessed it would be this woman, so he wasn't overly surprised. And now, he had reached a height that this woman couldn't reach. Song Shung no longer paid attention to anyone, as if the only person left on the entire battlefield was the young man in front of him. A first-class soldier. He was shocked, but also full of interest. He was about the same age as himself, but he was also a first-class soldier. Such people were rare. Master, be careful. He is very powerful. Song San, who was recovering his magic power, spoke and was about to come over, but Song Shung raised his hand to refuse him. Recover your strength, get rid of that group of people, and leave that woman behind. Song Shung pointed at Yaxiang, the only one in the field covered in flames, and Song San immediately understood. Then, Song Shung looked at Su Yu and said with a smile, "You are quite good. You already possess the strength of a first-class warrior at this age. Those traps must be your masterpiece. I am from the Crescent Moon tribe, and my father is the great shaman of the Crescent Moon tribe. I think we can be good friends instead of enemies." Song Shung extended an olive branch. No tribe would be too short of first-class warriors. Moreover, in the tribe, although all the great witches belong to the patriarch, not all warriors belong to a great witch. Each great witch had his own power, which was also the capital for them to gain a foothold in a large clan like the tribe. The Crescent Moon tribe can be said to be a well-known large tribe on this continent, so anyone who is not a fool will consider it. As long as you agree, these witches will be your spoils, and you can immediately become an elder of our Crescent Moon tribe. Song Shung was very confident that no one would be unmoved by this condition. But it was Su Yu's frying pan that responded to Song Shung. Since you were planning to attack my people, we can't be friends. Villains die because they talk too much, while decent characters, on the other hand, are too lazy to talk. Besides, Su Yu didn't have time to discuss his life ideals with him. Once Song San's magical power was restored, Yaxiang and the others would be in danger. The frying pan came crashing down again, and Song Shung's eyes glared, and he snorted. I don't know what's good for me. Wu Li flowed throughout his body, and Song Shung immediately met his fist. A faint golden light exploded on his flesh fist. It was extremely difficult for ordinary warriors to be close to the elements of heaven and earth, but they could still use skills with the elements of heaven and earth by learning Wu Li combat techniques. Warlock power and combat skills are rarer than iron ore. They are the experience gained through battle and insight by generations of great warlocks. Even if one reaches the rank of great warlock, there's no guarantee of learning them. This is the main reason many great warlocks choose to join the Horde, even willingly accepting a subordinate position within the alliance. Song Shung is very lucky. He has a good father. His boxing style had no name, but the golden light gave Suyu a dangerous aura, and Suyu instinctively used his magic power to defend himself. A clang sound was heard. Suyu felt a slight numbness and a little tingling in her fist. The defensive magic power dissipated instantly like scattered clouds. Oh, so it can penetrate the magic power. Suyu understood instantly, and his body was knocked away by Song Sheng's punch. Of course, this was also within his calculations, or rather, it was intentional. Suyu didn't use much magic power at all, but took advantage of Song Sheng's fist to create a recoil effect, using the force to bounce away. His figure drew an arc in the air and flew quickly in another direction. So weak, Song Sheng was also stunned. The opponent had been so powerful in the initial collision, but this blow was so weak and powerless, lacking any stamina. He subconsciously looked over, and his pupils shrank immediately, as if he had guessed what Suyu was thinking. Song San, retreat quickly. Song Sheng is not conceited at all. A first-class fighter is not a cabbage. If he wants to completely defeat Suyu, Song San's strength is indispensable, so he can't get into trouble now. Suyu's punch, just now, was not aimed at himself at all. His real target was Song San, who was not far away. Even with the early warning, Song San and Song Sheng still underestimated Suyu's speed. His legs had been strengthened by the physical potion, and the moment he landed, he shot out like a cannonball, his right fist clenched, heading straight for Song San's face. A serious punch. It was a very ordinary name, but it sounded like the whisper of death in Song San's ears. The immense pressure of the witch power was like a giant, shaking him so much that he couldn't breathe. He was obviously also a first-class warrior, but he couldn't understand why the other party's seemingly ordinary punch could contain such terrifying power. In just a moment, Song San's eyes dimmed completely, and he gave up. There was no way to escape, not to mention that his magic power had only recovered a little bit. Pung! A simple, unpretentious punch was met with a heart-shaking roar. The body of a first-rate warrior, tempered by sorcery, had become incredibly strong. Every member of the Crescent Moon tribe believed this, and so they were even more shocked at this moment. Song San was knocked out by a punch, and his body flew like a huge rock. Bang, 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 he broke 3 big trees in succession, and then sank deeply into the 4th tree. Song San's forehead was sunken, just like his body, and he was deader than dead. Silence. The deathly silence spread among the crowd like a plague. He was a first-rate fighter. How could he be killed by just one punch? Looking at Suyu now, he looks like a humanoid beast. Some people with weak psychological defenses felt numb in their hands while holding the iron swords. Chapter 29, Pursuit 7. No, impossible. The most shocking person was Song Sheng. Song San was dead? How could he be dead? How could he be killed so easily with just one punch? Even he himself could not guarantee that he could kill the opponent with one punch. No, we can't delay any longer. The young man before him was too strange. If he delayed, something might happen. He had to fight quickly. Song Sheng didn't dare to hold back any longer. With a loud shout, he rushed towards Suyu's back. His fist was filled with golden light, and this punch gathered his strongest magical power. Come and die. Song Sheng's voice exploded in his ears. Thank you for the reminder. Suyu smiled indifferently. To be honest, he was also quite surprised by his own strength. The Qilin arm was indeed extraordinary. A mage's passion lies in the battle of waves, while man's passion lies in the fist-to-flesh combat. Suyu immediately raised his fist to meet the attack. The members of the Crescent Moon tribe, who were still in a daze over Song San's death, were instantly killed by Yaxiang's dagger. Yu, Ergu Dazhuang, and Anu. How could it be you? I am Song Dazhong. I'm your clan leader. What do you want to do? Song Dazhong was already panicking and at a loss as to what to do. When he saw familiar clansmen waving weapons at him, he was scared out of his wits. The original Black Snake tribe members' eyes were icy. I'm sorry, we've been sold out by the 2 tribe leaders. Now, we are members of the Black Rose tribe. After seeing Suyu kill a first-rate soldier with a single punch, this group of people no longer dared to have the slightest thought of rebellion. Moreover, people in this world admire strength. The stronger Suyu is, the safer they will feel. Kill him. I don't know who led the group, but they no longer had any scruples and directly overwhelmed Song Dazhong. The most excited person in the room was probably Yaxiang. Suyu's tyranny, its brutality, struck a chord with her. At that moment, the flames around her surged violently. her magical power raging, frightening the Crescent Moon tribe warriors into completely losing their will to fight. Pung, pung pung, bang bang bang. On the other side of the battlefield, a large open space was completely devastated, with the ground cracked in 4s and 5s. Song Sheng and Su Yu's fists were almost free to smash into each other. They had completely given up on defense and continued to attack with their feet as the center of the circle. Song Sheng's linen shirt had completely ripped apart, revealing his muscular body. Su Yu's clothes were the same, with only his sweatpants still struggling to hold him up. Although he felt a little pain, he couldn't care less. Moreover, the two men became more and more excited as they smashed each other, like manic beasts that only knew how to fight, baring their fangs at their opponents. Fists laced with powerful sorcerer's energy repeatedly struck the two men's faces, chests, shoulders, and lower abdomens. The powerful force even ripped through their bodies, vibrating the surrounding air. Their feet dug deep into the ground, cracking more and more. The scene was both shocking and terrifying. Puff! Finally, after exchanging nearly 100 punches, Song Sheng felt a sweet sensation in his throat and blood spurted out. Meanwhile, Su Yu, standing opposite him, despite having her clothes torn, still looked excited, as if she still had endless power. I don't believe it. Why? Why is he so strong? Song Sheng was so shocked from being full of confidence at the beginning to trying his best now that he began to doubt his life. Is that all? Su Yu Ismail. Come again. Song Sheng was provoked and swung his fist again. Puff, puff. With every punch, blood and essence will spurt out. After this confrontation, Su Yu was almost covered in blood. Ha ha ha. Defeated. Being defeated to the extreme. Song Sheng didn't even have the slightest fear, but was puzzled as to why Su Yu possessed such a strange power. He is far superior to the average first-rate fighter. You've chosen a path that is doomed to failure. Song Sheng let the blood flow from the corner of his mouth. He glanced at Yaxiang, who had finished the battle, and smiled miserably at Su Yu in front of him. The witch is the curse that destroys this world, so it must be eliminated. Since this young man has chosen to stand on that side, he is doomed to fail, because what he will face is not just the Crescent tribe, but the entire alliance. Oh, Su Yu smiled. I don't know whether you will fail or not. I only know that you will die. Su Yu was too lazy to continue talking about these boring things with the other party and raised her fist again. Just now I warmed up with you. Your magic power and combat skills are pretty good. Now it's my turn. The smile on Su Yu's lips came along with his serious punch. This time, Song Sheng couldn't even lift his fist to fight back. He only felt that the figure behind Su Yu was infinitely enlarged and turned into a giant. He laughed like a psychopath. It turns out that I don't even have the qualifications to ask you to use your full strength. So this is a reward for being my punching bag. A punch was thrown, shaking the sky and cracking the earth. Song Sheng's body was even more miserable than Song San's. He was almost torn into pieces by Su Yu's full-strength attack. Until the blood had dried up, Su Yu slowly wiped the corner of his mouth, where there was a trace of his own blood. It must be said that Song Sheng's fighting skills were indeed good. The golden light that could penetrate the magic power was indeed quite powerful. It was just that Song Sheng had not been able to practice it to the fullest. Sujue. When everything was settled, Yaxiang was the first to rush over. She looked Su Yu up and down, and only breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the smile on Su Yu's face. Clan leader. Immediately, the group of surrendered black snakes gathered around, and, without further explanation, all knelt down. If the warriors had been swayed by threats and inducements last night, now they were truly and completely subdued. What the hell is a patriarch? I'm not the clan leader. Your clan leader is in the camp. I'll take you to see him later. The Black Snake clan members were speechless. How could such a powerful person not be the clan leader? Sister Yaxiang, take them and bring back all the weapons of the Crescent Moon tribe. Those are all iron tools. It would be a waste if they were not used. As for the corpses, you still need to think about them in the big forest. It won't be long before the wild beasts will help you clean them up. Okay, you take a rest first. Yaxiang nodded. After scavenging all the useful items, Su Yu led the group back to the mountaintop. After all, he couldn't be sure if there would be more pursuers, so he planned to wait out the storm for a few more days. The injured Black Snake members who had been abandoned earlier were also recruited. Su Yu even arranged for several people to go to the Black Snake's original camp and bring back all the supplies they could use. In this way, all 58 members of the Black Snake tribe, both men and women, were recruited, plus supplies. It was a good harvest. The bodies of Song Sheng and Song San were buried by Yaxiang in a pit behind a mountain. The tribesmen didn't know the reason, so they left after finishing their work, leaving Yaxiang and Su Yu standing quietly by. My father and his father were from the same clan who had fought together. When he was little, he even called me sister. Yaxiang looked at Song Sheng, who had turned into a handful of yellow earth, and sighed. I didn't expect that he would die in front of me. Do you regret it? Su Yu said lightly. Yaxiang shook her head. Ever since Winnie and I left the tribe, we have never regretted it. If you don't kill him today, we will be the only ones to die. What about Song San? Song Sheng and Yaxiang have some connection, so why should Song San be buried together? Yaxiang's lips curled up. This is respect for a first-class warrior. Su Yu smacked her lips in amazement. They were indeed a fighting nation, very particular. Su Yu, what should we do next? After calming down, Yaxiang asked. Wait another week. If we're sure there's no danger, we'll go back. Good. The two returned to the camp on the mountaintop. The tribesmen had already set up their tents and joined the witches' tribe. They had already realized that their future lives would no longer be as free and unrestrained as before. But perhaps this was also a good change. That night was rather peaceful, with only the sounds of the tribesmen chatting and laughing. Fearing discovery, Su Yu hadn't allowed them to light many campfires. Su Yu's tent was far smaller than theirs. Occasionally, two new female members would slip into the tent, swaying their waists and offering seductive glances as they served the new leader or chief. Perhaps it was the philosophy they'd been indoctrinated with since joining the Black Snake tribe, or perhaps it was simply their admiration for the strong. However, when Su Yu remembered that Yaxiang was sleeping not far from her, she immediately dismissed the female tribesman from her heart. If Yaxiang found out and told Kokoro and the others, the high profile he had built up in the tribe would be compromised. Su Yu was planning to rely on them to gain more favorability points. Over the past 2 days, I have accumulated a lot of favorability points, not only from the contributions of my tribesmen, but also from the continuous supply from Kokoro, who has reached the stage of admiration. What surprised Su Yu was that the second night was still calm. She always felt like something was wrong. It seems that Yaxiang didn't come. She had clearly stayed in her tent until late at night, but she probably gave up because it was no longer interesting. An inexplicable sense of loss spread in Su Yu's chest. When I was bored, I fired a 10-round combo. This time, it was all stamina potions. He gulped down another 10 bottles, and though he could feel his strength growing, it was like a drop in the ocean with no further results. It wasn't that simple. From second-rate to first-rate, there was a huge gap. The leap from first-rate to super first-rate would likely require even greater effort. Su Yu felt as if his body were a bottomless black hole, a hole that no amount of magical power could fill. He needed more stamina potions, more concentrated magical power. He even sensed that if he could only fill that inner emptiness, he would reach the level of a super first-rate warrior. Time passed quickly, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. There must be something wrong with Yaxiang. Not only did she not show up at night, but she also stayed in the tent during the day. I don't know what she was thinking. A woman's heart is like a needle in the sea. Su Yu couldn't understand it too deeply, so she could only let it develop. Maybe, when the time comes, Yaxiang will tell me on her own initiative. However, Su Yu would never have dreamed that the opportunity she had guessed would come so quickly and violently. On the third night, after a busy day, the tribesmen all fell asleep. Su Yu was lying alone in the tent, about to rest when the animal skin curtain of the tent was suddenly lifted. Yaxiang, whose body was slightly glowing, walked in with her head lowered. Her complexion didn't look well, as if she was sick and was slightly red. "What's up?" Su Yu asked subconsciously. "Yes." Yaxiang nodded and came to Su Yu's side. The familiar fragrance quickly filled the small space. Su Yu felt her nose was burning, and she didn't know if it was the fire element emitted by Yaxiang that she had inhaled. Su Yu rubbed his nose and was about to sit up, but unexpectedly Yaxiang reached out and pressed his shoulder directly. Yaxiang, standing before him, looked down at him with a surprisingly clear gaze, showing no sign of madness. She wasn't awakening as a Miko, nor was she at all lost. "What do you want to do?" Su Yu couldn't help swallowing. For the first time, a woman's smile appeared on Yaxiang's face, and her sexy and gentle voice, totally unlike her usual cold voice, echoed in Su Yu's ears. "My mother once taught me that if you meet a man you like one day, and your eyes and heart are filled with him, and you can no longer see anything else, you must not hesitate. When such a man appears in your life, you only have two choices. What choice? You wanted to know the answer. How Yaxiang's mother taught this woman. Mother said, either kill this man or bury him with your own hands. Or give up everything and make him your man. Yaxiang, who is always cold, suddenly smiled charmingly and looked into Su Yu's eyes. Su Yu, what do you think I should choose? Chapter 30, Pursuit. 8. No words were spoken that night. Yaxiang gently raised her watery eyes. Her expression was no longer so cold, but as gentle as water, and she yawned slightly. Awake? Su Yu asked. Yeah. Yaxiang nodded, feeling that Su Yu seemed to be looking at the scars on her body. Some of them were very horrifying, showing how serious the injuries were. Don't be so stupid in the future. Take good care of your body. Yaxiang asked, don't you like scars? I just don't like you getting hurt. Su Yu smiled. Yaxiang was silent and closed her eyes gently. For the first time, she felt that sleeping could be such a comfortable and safe thing. Maybe it's just that the sleeping place is different. No one can hurt me except you. After a long time, Yaxiang murmured this sentence and fell asleep again. Winnie placed the new camp at the northernmost end of the forest, near the edge of the area. Not far from the camp was a clear lake, which was why Winnie was willing to live here. Starting from the beginning, the tribesmen began to build their own homes as usual, and everything was arranged in an orderly manner by Winnie. Considering that Su Yu would be living with them, Kokoro and Lin built a slightly larger thatched hut, with Winnie specially crafting the wooden supports. As for Yaxiang's house, Winnie had always let her handle it herself. After all, they grew up together, and she knew Yaxiang's personality well. In this way, such peaceful days lasted for about half a month, and Su Yu brought new tribesmen here. Winnie was momentarily bewildered by the sudden arrival of over 50 people from the tribe. Fortunately, Su Yu had already made plans, and with the captains of the new tribesmen taking the lead, they began work next to the camp. Su Yu returned to the home Kokoro had built for him, the little girl practically hanging around his neck in excitement. Originally, Su Yu had planned to confess his relationship with Yaxiang to Lin and Kokoro, but after actually meeting them, he felt a little timid. But it felt like this relationship was about to become unconcealed, and Su Yu was starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. Elsewhere, in Winnie's new treehouse, after hearing Yaxiang's account of the events, including the killing of 2 top-tier warriors from the Crescent Moon tribe, Winnie's heart pounded, and even she was dumbfounded. Like Yaxiang, she no longer had any connection to the Crescent Moon tribe, so naturally, she wasn't upset that someone from her own tribe had been killed. Maybe Su Yu is a gift from God to us. Winnie finally said this. On the other side, Yaxiang smiled slightly. Yaxiang, you are not quite right. As sisters for many years, Winnie quickly noticed the change. This sister, who always had a cold face, actually smiled for the first time. And her smile was so natural, just like an ordinary woman. Me? Yaxiang's lips curled up, and Su Yu's figure appeared in her mind. She nodded and said, I just confirmed what my mother taught me. She was right, and I did it. As it related to Yaxiang's deceased mother, Winnie thought she had talked about something unpleasant, so she quickly changed the subject. You don't have a tent yet, so sleep with me tonight. Thinking of the tent to sleep in, Yaxiang was suddenly stunned. After hesitating for a moment, she suddenly said, Please help me build a thatched hut this time. A bigger one. Huh? A thatched hut? Are you kidding, sister? Winnie has never seen Yaxiang sleep in a thatched hut since she was a child. She couldn't help but reach out and touch Yaxiang's forehead, wanting to see if she was sick. Unexpectedly, Yaxiang rolled her eyes and said, Don't joke. I'm serious. Something is wrong. Winnie couldn't know the truth, so she just asked, How big do you want it to be? After a brief thought, Yaxiang said, It doesn't need to be too big, just enough for 2 people to sleep in. 2 people? With whom? Compared to Su Yu, Yaxiang is much more straightforward. Su Yue, Yaxiang said without hesitation. Why? Winnie was even more confused. It happened too suddenly, and she was still a little confused. No reason. I'm just doing my job, Yaxiang said and lay down slowly. Winnie's eyes gradually brightened, and she rushed over without caring about her image, hugging Yaxiang's body, even changing her address, with a gleam in her eyes. Sister, tell me. Yaxiang's thatched cottage was built smoothly, but after living there for 3 days, she began to feel depressed. Because Su Yu had never been there, even Winnie, who was secretly watching from the side, thought Yaxiang was teasing her. With Yaxiang's connection, Su Yu's stay was basically secured. Winnie had been so happy about this that she felt a bit down now. However, what reassured her was that Suyu had been training the tribe members since her return. He taught the tribe members hunting trap techniques, and even the training and application of witchcraft elements. This made Winnie feel more and more that Suyu would never leave, as he had completely regarded this place as his home. Winnie's mood was getting better and better, but Yaxiang's mood suddenly exploded. For days. For full days. Do you know how I spent these 4 nights? At dusk on the 4th day, Yaxiang came to Suyu and Kokoro's thatched cottage, lifted the curtain, and walked in. In the thatched hut, Suyu and others were eating barbecue peacefully. Lin was fiddling with a ball of pure white silk thread. It seemed to be the thread left by some animal. Lin was fiddling with it with a thin bamboo stick, frowning. Why is Lin playing with this thing for no reason? Yaxiang was slightly stunned, but soon realized that she was here to find Suyu. Ah, it's Sister Yaxiang. Kokoro raised her pretty face and called out politely, her mouth greasy. Next to her was a bag of white salt and a bottle of black liquid. It was probably Suyu's masterpiece again. When Suyu saw the person coming, the corners of her mouth twitched. He had been busy promoting the progress of his tribe these past 2 days and hadn't had time to look for her. During his rare free time, Yaxiang was out hunting with the tribe, so it was unfortunate that he missed her. As for the nights, he was also helpless. Every time he thought about sneaking out in the middle of the night to look for Yaxiang, he was worried about being rejected, and then he fell asleep in a daze while hesitating. Suyu, why don't you come to see me at night? I wait for you until very late. Suyu was still thinking about how to tell Kokoro and the others about Yaxiang, but Yaxiang asked directly, and Suyu was so shocked that she almost spit out water. Suyu was speechless, afraid of being beaten if she said it out loud. Lin raised her head curiously and put down the work in her hands. Yaxiang, what are you waiting for Suyu for at night? Sister Yaxiang, do you have anything to do with Brother Suyu tonight? Yaxiang smiled as if it was natural, squatted down, touched Kokoro's head, and explained, Kokoro, Mom, this woman is a bit fierce. Chapter 31, Pursuit 9. Suyu was dumbfounded. Really? Really? Kokoro giggled. In her opinion, what Yaxiang said was not a bad thing. Lin was very surprised. When did it happen? Just a few days ago. Yaxiang said. Beside the distant clear lake, the bonfires are as dense as stars. Laughter and singing continued. This is the Crescent Moon tribe, a large tribe with considerable power on the eastern continent. At this moment, in the middle of the endless tents, in a huge building made of wood and giant animal bones, the atmosphere seemed slightly depressing. A middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s sat quietly on an animal skin chair. The man was named after the beast, called Song Heihu. He was a great witch of the Crescent Moon tribe and the father of Song Sheng. His face was somewhat gloomy, and even the 2 women serving him felt the overwhelming anger and their hands began to tremble. Kneeling in front of him was a wounded, thin, short young man, trembling like a sieve. You mean, my child, that he was killed in the northern forest? A crackling sound came from the man's fist, faintly emitting a golden light. If the young man dared to look up, he would have found that Song Heihu's eyes had turned completely black, like a demon from hell. Yes. I accidentally fell into a trap and got injured, so I was left behind. When I went over there again, I saw the young master fighting with a man of about the same age. In the end, the young master was beaten to death, and his body was torn into pieces. What about Song-san? Where did he go? Song Heihu's voice was icy cold, without any warmth left. Song-san. He was already dead before I arrived. After the young man finished his story, he banged his head hard on the floor, not daring to move at all. The whole room fell silent, and you could hear a pin drop. Then, Song Heihu gently raised his finger. Since my child is dead, as his subordinate, you should go with him. After saying this, the young man seemed to be bombarded by a strange force and exploded instantly, with filth scattered all over the ground. Find someone to clean up this place. Also, call my son Song Ding Tian over. The 2 trembling female tribesmen nodded and hurried out. Puff! Finally, in a fit of rage, Song Heihu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression became as ferocious as a devil's, and his teeth were grinding. Okay, old Ghost Yang, old Ghost Han, your daughters, your people, very good. Just wait. It won't be long before I make you witness with your own eyes a scene of them suffering a fate worse than death. They will be humiliated by thousands of people while they are alive and eaten by wild beasts after they die, in order to pay for my child's life. It wasn't long before the corpse cleaners appeared and quickly cleaned up the mess. A burly, square-faced, big-eared young man walked in. Upon seeing Song Hae-hu, he bowed his head respectfully and spoke. "Father, what do you want to call me for? Your brother is dead." Song Hae-hu did not hide it. Shengye. When Song Dingtian heard that his brother was dead, he did not show any expression, but his huge eyes were filled with coldness. "Good. Who killed him?" "The daughters of two old ghosts, Jiang and Han." "What does my father need me to do?" Song Dingtian was shocked and thought of his two former cousins. 3 months from now, there will be an important tribal meeting between the Yuya and Tianshou tribes. During this period, you must not go anywhere. Song Hae-hu pondered for a moment and continued. "After the tribal meeting, you will take people to capture them and bring them to me." Song Dingtian. "Father's going to die, or he is going to live. These two must be kept alive. The rest must be killed." "Okay, you can leave now." "Yes, father." Song Dingtian responded and left. Song Hae-hu's eyes flashed with a cold look, and he snorted coldly. "Chief Yi, do you think that you can check and balance me with the two old ghosts Jiang and Han? I want to see, will you kill their daughters or not?" Today could be said to be the most lively day for the Rose clan. Under Winnie's arrangement, Suyu became the first elder of the clan. Normally, the most important person in a tribe is the clan leader, followed by the great shaman, then the elders, the warrior leader, and the guard captain. But for the Rose clan, having a first-class warrior like Suyu is already a great blessing. At the same time, Suyu has begun to improve everyone's lives for the future of the tribe. "Brother Suyu, drink some water." It was noon, and Yaxiang hadn't returned from a hunting trip with her tribe yet. Suyu was alone in her room, designing a fence for the camp. Before her stood a tall, pretty girl with a sweet smile, a well-behaved and adorable appearance. Her name was Lioli, and Winnie had arranged for her to take care of Suyu. He nodded, took Lioli's water, and took a sip. He had already told Winnie about the fence, and they would send someone to start work in the next 2 days, so there was no need to worry about it for the time being. Suyu shook her head, suddenly remembering the potatoes she had planted some time ago, and couldn't help asking, "Lioli, how are the potatoes I planted earlier?" Lioli's eyes lit up at the mention of this, and she smiled. "Very good. That thing has grown a lot." The potato seeds given by the system seemed a little strange, their growth cycle several times faster than normal. It's only been about a month, and they've already produced fruit with an astonishing yield. Honestly, there's a bit of a bug. But this is good news for the ethnic group. I wonder how Lee's training is going. These days, Suyu has been having Lee try to break down boulders in a powder to see if she can make stronger concrete, so they can start building the mud house. This is also, of course, to help the girl hone her magical powers. After these days of practice, many of the tribe's Miko have already improved their strength, and Yaxiang is even showing signs of breaking through to become a top-tier warrior. Once Yaxiang successfully breaks through, her power will definitely undergo a terrifying change. After all, the magic power that can be compatible with the elements of heaven and earth is different from ordinary pure magic power. The power that the former can exert is completely incomparable. Suddenly, a familiar petite figure ran in. Axa walked happily and brought Suyu exciting news. "Brother Suyu, Sister Wei Luo is back. She asked me to come and tell you that she has found out some information about the Mother Stone for you." Wei Luo is a member of the tribe who is responsible for exchanging items with other tribes. Suyu was unable to see him last time due to injury. Suyu originally thought that the other party would be an elderly person, but unexpectedly, it was a mature woman of the same age as Yaxian. Vero is a beautiful woman who exudes an air of shrewdness and competence from head to toe. She wears a tight linen dress, her hair is neatly combed to the ears, her almond-shaped eyes are shining brightly, and she has a good figure, which makes people feel bright. Not long ago, she went to the trading tribe again during the ethnic migration camp. Suyu had a lot of trivial matters to deal with at the time, so she asked the other party to investigate the Mother Stone. The other party said it was the Mother Stone? "Can you describe its approximate shape to me?" In Winnie's tree house, Suyu met Vero. She was reporting the situation to Winnie. Suyu hurried over and joined in. Suyu now has absolute say in the clan, and anyone with a discerning eye can see that Winnie is just short of giving him the position of clan leader and herself. Suyu didn't tell Winnie and the others what the Mother Stone was. After all, he didn't know what its effect would be. If he blindly guessed and told Winnie and the others, giving them hope, which would ultimately lead to disappointment. That wouldn't be good. Winnie and Vero just thought of the Mother Stone as Suyu's favorite toy. They seemed to be from the White Tiger Alliance. I took a quick look and saw a palm-sized, irregular, light blue, transparent stone. Willow recalled, then revealed a helpless look. Originally, I wanted to exchange one for you, but unfortunately, the conditions they offered were unbearable. Too expensive? Suyu said. Well, they said they needed 2 horses and 500 pieces of salt to exchange for a Mother Stone. That thing is quite rare, and they don't have much. A portion of salt weighs about 1 kilogram. 500 kilograms of salt and 2 horses is indeed a bit expensive. Suyu was well aware of the tribe's current material situation and could not afford to exchange so many things for a stone that was not very effective. Then, did they tell me what effect the stone has? Suyu continued to ask. No. Willow nodded affirmatively. Yes, even if the other party knew, they probably wouldn't say it out loud. Suyu thought for a moment. How long will the trading activity last? Willow, about a month. According to my calculations, that group of people should stay there for another 10 days. Suyu then looked at Winnie. I want to go and see it myself. Chapter 32, Trading Tribe, 1. Winnie was stunned, looking a little uneasy. She wasn't worried that Suyu would leave, but simply worried that Suyu would get into trouble. The trading tribes were always mixed with people from all tribes and ethnic groups, so they had no way of predicting what would happen. Are you really sure you want to go? Suyu nodded and said with a smile, Don't worry, I'm just going to take a look and exchange some ripe potatoes for something. Is this the latest food you grew? I've eaten it. It's a bit dry and bitter, but it can still fill my stomach after being roasted. Winnie nodded. That's because there's no seasoning. Just salt tastes just so. Suyu mail bitterly. Potatoes are special to the people of this world, so maybe they can be exchanged for a good price. It would be even better if I could get the Mother Stone as well. Looking at Suyu's determined eyes, Wei and I sighed and said, Okay, let Wei Luo accompany you. She is more familiar with this aspect and will be helpful to you. Yeah, Suyu nodded. I want to go too. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from the door, and Yaxiang walked in with a bow and arrow on her back and a dagger hanging around her waist. You can't live without him. Winnie complained internally. Ever since word of Yaxiang and Suyu's affair spread among the tribe, her sister had been practically inseparable from Suyu, except when hunting or working. Her treehouse was close to Yaxiang's thatched hut, and sometimes at night she could hear their cheerful voices, which made her feel restless and helpless. But this is also good. At least the two of them can leave together, and I won't be tortured by that seductive voice at night. Winnie asked bluntly, When do you plan to leave? Let's do it this afternoon. Go early and come back early. So you thought for a while. Okay, Vero, you should go get ready too. It's going to be a bit hard. Willow, it's okay. After all, I didn't bring much back this time. In the afternoon, after explaining the situation to Kokoro, Suyu used 2 horses to carry the loaded potatoes, and the group set off towards the trading tribe. This time, Suyu not only brought newly planted potatoes, but also a bag of fine salt made from salt. Of course, the quality was incomparable to the Blue Star fine salt rewarded by the system, but it was already considered a high-end product in this world. Potatoes and fine salt are both for the purpose of gaining a good, sustainable development ally in the trading tribe. Their own tribe needs to be strong now, so one more ally means one less enemy. With Vero leading the way and Suyu's map radar choosing the best route, they quickly left the forest and arrived at a trading tribe on the eastern continent about 2 days later. As the name suggests, a trading tribe is a place where various ethnic groups, tribes, and even alliances gather to exchange goods. This tribe, called the White Dove, is quite powerful, with a territory numbering tens of thousands. They collaborate with numerous other tribes and enjoy a high reputation. Their members enjoy traveling to search for valuable and rare items. Their trading activities are also well planned. Trading takes place annually, with a month-long trading period during the first, second, and third months of the year. This has become an unwavering rule. If they find something truly valuable, they might extend the period by 2 days. Of course, what all ethnic groups and tribes like most is the peaceful atmosphere in the trading tribe. Private fighting is not allowed here. Even the most hostile tribes are not allowed to fight without authorization. There were several powerful tribes that challenged this rule, and within a few months they were completely swallowed up by other tribes due to lack of supplies and other reasons. In this world, it is not easy to get people to obey the rules obediently, but as long as you give them enough deterrence and make an example of them, Even the dumbest people will behave themselves. After setting foot on the territory of the White Pigeon trading tribe, Suyu witnessed for the first time the grandeur of a tribe far larger than the tribe itself. At a glance, the tents and people stretched as far as the eye could see. Among them, he even spotted a strange race. Those guys with small horns on their heads, or wagging tails and furry ears, made Suyu realize for the first time that this world is really unusual. Are those orcs? Suyu couldn't help but whisper to Vero. He didn't know the customs and rules of this world, and he was afraid that talking about alien species too loudly in front of them would cause unnecessary trouble. After all, on Blue Star, the same word could have two completely different meanings in two different regions. Since this is your first time visiting a trading tribe, it's better to be as cautious as possible. Willow nodded, while Yaxiong looked suspiciously. Is this your first time seeing an orc? Yeah. If I had known there were orcs, I should have come out more often to see them. Maybe I could even bring back a few orc girls, ahahaha. Thinking about these strange things, Yaxiong and Wei Luo looked at Su Yu's slightly wretched smile. And for the first time, they felt that Su Yu's handsomeness seemed to have dropped a little. The young guard at the gate was very familiar with Vero, and greeted him when they met. Su Yu also subconsciously took a look at the armed strength of these guards. All iron swords and fine linen clothes. The linen was a bit crudely sewn, but it was considered a luxury in this world. It seemed the White Dove tribe was quite wealthy. Of course, there is no currency in this world, and all circulation between tribes is based on exchange and barter. The young guard on duty glanced at the stranger following the acquaintance, and a strange light appeared in his eyes. A very beautiful woman and a very beautiful boy. Although the boy was wearing simple linen clothes, his skin was very white, even better than that of women. When did such a person appear in Vero's tribe? And, most importantly, Vero actually brought a man this time. Although the guards knew Vero well, they were unaware of her identity as a witch. Furthermore, she always came with a few female members of her tribe, and the guards had always assumed that her tribe only brought women out to exchange for supplies. Are the people from the White Tiger Alliance still here? Wei Luo knew Su Yu's main purpose, so he tried to get information from the guards. The guard nodded immediately. Still there. They said they'll stay for about 7 days. The young guard laughed as he spoke. They've almost gathered all the supplies they need. They're trying to trade with another tribe for a unique stone, but unfortunately, they want so much that no one's willing to trade. I've seen that stone before. It's just an ordinary one, completely useless. If anyone is willing to trade it, they're probably crazy. Su Yu rolled her eyes, feeling like she was about to fall into the same category. Let's talk about it later when we have time. Let's go in first. Wei Luo smiled. Worried that Su Yu would be embarrassed by what he said, several people said goodbye to the guards and entered the crowd. The interior of the trading tribe was even more spacious than it appeared from the outside. The different tribes exchanging supplies set up their tents in designated areas, so the entire area didn't appear disorganized at all. It had to be said that the White Dove tribe did have some ideas. As soon as he passed through the door, he was greeted by members of the White Dove tribe. Vero was familiar with the procedure, and after handing over 3 pieces of dried meat, he was given an open space in the southwest. The location this time is good, not in the corner, Vero said excitedly. Several people followed the members of the White Dove tribe and arrived at the place in a short while. Isn't this just renting a storefront in a shopping mall and setting up a small stall? Su Yu complained inwardly while Yaxiong began to build a makeshift tent. Wei Luo and 2 other tribesmen worked together, while Su Yu and Yaxiong each built 2 tents. Then, they loaded the supplies from the horses' backs into the tents. 2 tribesmen spread a piece of animal hide on the ground, placed a few potatoes and fine salt on top, and that was it, as if they were opening the shop. Vero, you and the others stay here and watch. Yaxiong and I will go look around and look for people from the White Tiger Alliance. Su Yu said, and then took Yaxiong for a walk. Occasionally, someone in the crowd would glance at Su Yu, and Su Yu was observing as well. He and Yaxiong had only turned 2 corners, a distance of hundreds of meters, and they had already spotted 2 top-tier warriors along the way. This showed that this trading tribe was full of hidden talents, and if they really did cause trouble, they wouldn't even be able to escape. People who exchanged supplies came from all directions, and the things they exchanged were also very strange. Among them, animal meat accounted for the largest proportion, followed by huge animal bones, linen cloth, edible roots and tubers, salt, horses, and slaves. Although it looked quite shabby, there was a lot of variety. Su Yu stood in front, carefully examining everything she saw, while Yaxiang cautiously stayed close, protecting her. Rather, protecting her man had become a subconscious thought in this woman's mind. In the 25 years before this, Yaxiang herself probably never imagined that a day would come when she would place a man at the top of her heart. Although she still firmly believed in the woman on top position, the object of her creation was Su Yu, and this could never be changed. Su Yu's dedication stemmed from the desire to find a bargain. Unlike the greed of the Blue Star antique market, driven by the desire to get rich quick, Su Yu simply wanted to unearth materials that would be useful to him and his tribe. Even with the system, his knowledge of this world was still limited. After all, while this world was identical to Blue Star, it differed significantly in subtle details. At least on Blue Star, there were no magical powers, no orcs, no unique races, no elephants the size of mountains, no rhinos as ferocious as Tyrannosaurus rex. Even an ordinary black bear possessed a strength of thousands of pounds. Compared to this, the black bear, low-level version he had killed earlier was just a larva. Su Yu's desire for strength became even stronger after fighting with Song Shang. After a tour, Su Yu saw many items that she liked before she even found anyone from the White Tiger Alliance. It must be said that the trading tribe founded by Bai Gu is really powerful. They have all kinds of common items, even extremely rare items are sold. So you can be said to be very lucky today. Most of the people in the moving crowd are discussing the sudden news. There's going to be a good show tomorrow, so it's worth our trip here. Ha ha ha. If that deal is true, the White Dove tribe leader will really become famous this time. Perhaps tribes from other continents will hear about it and come here. What exactly is the deal? Any definite information? In the crowd, some were whispering, some were shouting, and their behavior was very similar to that of all kinds of people and the common people in the streets. A big man with only a few hairs left on his forehead felt that his words were taken seriously, and he raised his neck. Hey, my brother has a tribe from White Dove. He told me that White Dove will be delivering something very important for the exchange today. It will probably arrive tomorrow morning. Fisk, it's no big deal. Every time they have a trading day, the White Dove tribe will exchange one or two important items. This time it will probably be the heart of a giant beast or a high-level slave or something like that. High-level slaves were actually first-rate warriors who had been imprisoned or exiled from some ruined or annexed tribes. At the very least, they could only be first-rate warriors, because only those with combat power that rose to this level were worthy enough to be valued by the White Dove tribe and specially arranged for exchange. Of course, there are occasional exceptions, such as the witch. Could it be a witch? White Pigeon hasn't had a slave like this in a long time. Some passers-by raised questions. As they spoke, Su Yu felt Yaxiang's body tremble. She was trying to control her anger. Seeing her own people being sold as slaves was hard for anyone to accept. However, a pair of warm hands quietly grasped her fist, and Su Yu gave her a reassuring look. If Yaxiang went berserk at this moment, it would be an extremely dangerous trigger for herself, and the others, including Wei Luo. Even though the White Dove tribe advocated for peace and maintained strict regulations, preventing other tribes from acting recklessly and engaging in violence during the trade, once they left, who could guarantee that there wouldn't be numerous enemies lurking outside the camp, each with their own agenda? Furthermore, was the White Dove tribe leader neutral about the existence of the witch? Su Yu wouldn't gamble. Placing her fate in the hands of a complete stranger was sheer folly. Feeling the rich magical power emanating from Su Yu's palm, Yaxiang lowered her head in shame. She rarely lost her mind, which was perhaps the main reason her friend Winnie had been preventing her from coming to the trading tribe. Within the trading tribe, which replacements occasionally occurred, these innocent women, after being discovered to possess cursed magical power, were abandoned by their families and tribes, either exiled or killed, or even worse, sent here for replacement. After all, the witch who is feared by everyone is actually a good commodity in the eyes of some people. Furthermore, aside from their potential to stun men, once a witch truly matures and undergoes the 3 stages of awakening, her strength will rival or even surpass that of a great witch. This is a significant force that any tribe cannot ignore. However, it is indeed difficult to control a witch whose strength has increased by leaps and bounds. The timid tribes that fear their growth will hunt them, but the powerful alliance has other ideas. In this world, there is nothing that cannot be controlled. If there is, it only means that you have not given enough. The bargaining chip of betrayal is what really determines everything. However, the bald man just sneered at this speculation. Witches are indeed quite rare, but no matter how rare they are, there's no need for the White Dove clan leader to use two great witches to escort them. Hiss! The crowd fell silent instantly. The man's words spread like a plague, rapidly spreading among the crowd. They became even more curious about the White Dove tribe's plan to transport an important item. What on earth could that be? He actually had to rely on two great witches to escort him. This is probably the treatment that the clan leader deserves. Suyu was also curious and full of interest in this mysterious object. She secretly complained, "It can't be a nuclear weapon, ha 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 ha." Seeing her man's strange smile, Yaxiang rolled her eyes unconsciously. Ever since she became Suyu's woman, her facial expressions have become richer. The boy she chose, who was 5 or 6 years younger than her, would always inadvertently enjoy himself alone. I feel inexplicably unhappy. Never mind him, we should know tomorrow. I also heard that several tribal leaders have sent their elders here because of this matter. Tomorrow will definitely be lively, but we must also be more careful. Holding Yaxiang's hand and continuing to walk forward, Suyu suddenly felt a pain in her lower back, as if a sharp object had pierced her skin and was trying to penetrate her flesh. At this place, at this time, attacking me? Does the other party have a hole in his head? Suyu's physique has been strengthened, and his strength is at the late first-class level. Logically speaking, ordinary bone knives are unlikely to be effective against him, and the object pressing against his lower back doesn't feel like a bone knife. He turned his head out of curiosity, and Yaxiang also stopped. Then his forehead went dark, and he started scolding. "What are you doing, kid? Stay away from my man." It was indeed a little kid. The little person behind Suyu was only half a person's height, just reaching Suyu's waist. She had a petite body and a wine-red face. The most peculiar thing was the sharp corner sticking out of her forehead. Ghost people? The little girl's appearance reminded Suyu of this species. When she was on Blue Star, it was all fictional in novels and stories. She didn't expect that it really existed in this world. Suyu was shocked by Yaxiang's reaction. Normally, she shouldn't be so irritable, and there was a hint of sourness in her words. Yaxiang wasn't jealous of her tribe, and she wasn't even averse to Suyu having relationships with most of the other witches. But if she was outside the tribe, or outside of her identity as a witch, she would never let any woman enter Suyu's tent. This was something Suyu accidentally learned from Winnie many years later. If the demon in front of her was not a young girl, I'm afraid Yaxiang would have hit her husband with her iron fist without hesitation. "Why are you so stingy? Let me hide for a while." The little girl from the ghost tribe glared at Yaxiang in dissatisfaction, but quickly lowered her head and continued to hit Suyu's waist as if she was stuck in a dead end. Crack, crack. Yaxiang's fist started to make noises. "Ah, please spare me." Suyu didn't comment. It was like cupping, painful but also a little comfortable. However, in order to prevent Yaxiang from getting angry, he had to turn around slideably and reach out to hold the little girl from the ghost tribe's head. "Are you hiding from people?" Suyu grasped the key point of her words. "My father is nearby. He doesn't know I followed him quietly. I'm afraid he will find me, and I'll get beaten when I get back." The little girl blinked and looked around vigilantly. "This place smells like my father. That you can't get close to him casually. He is my man." Yaxiang then interrupted and declared her sovereignty. "But here, I only know you two." The little girl pouted. Now Suyu and Yaxiang were even more surprised. "Do you know us?" "Yes." The little girl nodded. "I should say I've seen you before. It was in the forest. You led your people to defeat the Crescent Moon tribe. Was it the day when Songsheng was killed?" But Suyu and Yaxiang had no recollection of it. Not to mention having seen it before, there was no tribe of ghost people in the forest at all. "Were you there that day?" Suyu asked immediately, as asking directly was much more realistic than just imagining. "Yes, my father, several other tribesmen, and I saw it that day, but he forbade us from having any contact with humans." The little girl then looked at Yaxiang, her lips curled up. "You're his woman? I saw it all. You forced him. You rode on him and bullied him all night. Are all human women so brave?" Ahem. Suyu's old face suddenly turned red. Yaxiang crossed her arms across her chest, the white rabbit on her chest standing tall and motionless. "Did you see everything?" Feeling the unfriendly look in Yaxiang's eyes, the little girl seemed to have thought of something and explained. "I was the only one who saw it. I was very interested in him, so I sneaked out in the middle of the night to see him. I didn't expect to see you riding on him and bullying him." "That wasn't actually bullying. Talking about this kind of thing with a child who looked like he was 10 years old seemed no different from molestation. Suyu decisively chose to keep quiet and not explain. Also, can we please stop talking about this? Okay, although you know me, I have something to do now and can't play with you. Suyu tried to change the subject, and he didn't lie. Compared to chatting with a child, it was more important to find the mother's stone. Well, but I only know you, and I don't want to be caught and spanked by father. You can find anyone to hide with. The thing here is that there is no shortage of people. Yaxiang snorted coldly. The little girl shook her head instantly, and the sharp corners of her forehead scratched Suyu's palms, making them itch. No, I can sense danger. He's safe. I also like his smell. Unlike other humans, he smells bad. Little girl, if you can talk more. Suyu was in a good mood, but when she looked into Yaxiang's burning eyes, she instinctively wanted to back off. It was a long and lonely night, and Suyu didn't want to sleep all night facing someone's back. Suyu was about to refuse and try to persuade her, but the little girl raised her voice and said, I can take you to find the people from the White Tiger Alliance. I know where they are. It was obvious that this girl came prepared. Suyu didn't want to miss this opportunity. It would save time and effort. He glanced at Yaxiang, who was a little melancholy, but still didn't want to agree. He leaned over and whispered, You're on top tonight. You said it. Don't go back on your word. Yaxiang raised her beautiful eyebrows when she heard that. I know. Why are you always brooding over this? Suyu felt that Yaxiang would never get over the hurdle of who is on top in her life. After getting Yaxiang's approval, Suyu said to the little girl, You can follow me, but don't talk nonsense. She had witnessed the battle between him and Songsheng and should have seen Yaxiang unleashing her flame magic, so she should have known about her identity as a witch. This included the fact that he was looking for the White Tiger Alliance. This little ghost human girl was quirky and might know more. Okay. The little girl raised her lips and revealed a cute child smile. My name is Baiwa. You can call me a Bai. My father and I are from the Ronin group, and we don't have a surname yet. Oh, only the powerful people of the big tribes have surnames, which is normal. Suyu nodded and smiled slightly. My name is Suyu, and her name is Yaxiang. However, Baiwa didn't care about Yaxiang at all, and just kept staring at Suyu. Do you have a surname? I've never heard of Su. Everyone over here has a surname. Let's learn about the 100 family surnames. Are all the tribes over there big? Suyu touched his chin and said, It's quite big, a family with billions of dollars. Over $1 billion. This was the first time that Yaxiang heard Suyu talk about this, and she was talking to a stranger she had just met. She felt a little uncomfortable in her chest, sore and curious. She opened her fist and unconsciously clenched Suyu's palm, as if she wanted to squeeze the other person into her hand. A jealous woman is really unreasonable. Suyu was sweating from being pinched and just wanted to end this conversation quickly. Yes. When you look at the stars at night, count them. That's probably about that many. I don't believe it. Bai Hua snorted. She had heard from her father that the largest alliance on this continent was not even half as big as the stars in the sky. Chapter 33, Trading Tribe 2. Following Bai Hua's guidance, Suyu quickly located the White Tiger Alliance. Their territory was quite large, with 8 tents alone, the largest of which stood in the center, resembling a 9-square chessboard formation, awe-inspiring. After negotiating with the guards, Suyu regained consciousness and discovered that the little ghost man girl who had been nagging and asking questions had vanished. Could it be that her father had discovered her and quietly abducted her? Bai Hua's absence puzzled Suyu, but she must have possessed remarkable stealth skills to have been able to follow her group for so long without Suyu's detection. Maybe we'll see each other again in the future. I originally thought that the people in the White Tiger Alliance must be fierce and ferocious. After all, to be able to reach the level of the Alliance, their strength must be top-notch. The reality was just as Suyu had imagined. In the largest tent, there were 6 women and a dozen guards. These 6 women alone were no ordinary people. 2 were top-notch fighters, and 1 was incredibly powerful. Just the sight of them made Suyu feel uneasy. However, what surprised Suyu the most was that they were all women. There are a total of more than 20 members of the White Tiger Alliance this time. Except for the 6 women in front of them, the remaining 10 or so warriors can be seen at a glance as just ordinary guards. The 6 women ranged in age. The oldest and most powerful was about 27 or 28, with an oval face and almond-shaped eyes. She was quite pretty, but only from the neck up. Suyu looked at her muscular body and her visually stunning, sturdy limbs, and the image of Neza from a Blue Star anime popped up in her mind. She looks just like a Barbie doll. The other women were all around 20, the youngest about 18, her face still tinged with childishness. She was incredibly cute, with a plain figure, yet exuded a sense of confidence. The most beautiful of the group was a woman about Yaxiang's age, with the elegance of a young lady from a wealthy family. She wore a tiger skin lining and a tiger hair sweater, acting as the group's backbone. She sat off to the side, observing the two visitors with unfettered interest. This woman's name is Xiao Huahua, and she's the daughter of Xiao Dao of the White Tiger Alliance. Xiao Huahua's eyes lit up slightly at Su Yu's appearance. As a seasoned woman, she could tell that this boy, several years her junior, looked incredibly tender and, to be more precise, fair-skinned. He didn't seem to belong to this world at all. Even the son of the clan leader, who lived the most luxurious life in her alliance, wasn't as fair and clean-looking as him. When these women in tiger skins saw Su Yu, they seemed to have transformed into tigers, their eyes scanning Su Yu with gloomy eyes. Yixiang's eyebrows jumped, and she immediately stepped forward, using her body to protect her man. At this moment, she was a little regretful. Why did she let Su Yu come here? There seem to be too many women here. What do you want from us? Xiao Huahua just watched quietly, while a tall woman among the other 5 people stopped in front and said, "If you want to exchange items, the 3 tents to the left of the entrance are all ours. We have enough food and daily necessities for you to choose from." Although Su Yu is naturally delicate, judging by their attire and identification marks, they didn't seem like they were from a large tribe. People from large tribes had specific tattoos, usually on their arms. Su Yu had brought his tracksuit with him, leaving the outer garment with Kiki Luo, while his pants had been completely ripped apart in his fight with Song Sheng. So, at this moment, he was wearing a somewhat awkward, crudely crafted linen coat. Clothes made of linen were just ordinary things in the eyes of the tribe. Although Su Yu had recently taught Lin how to sew clothes with fine silk, the amount of silk thread was insufficient, only enough to sew 2 sets of linings, so Su Yu gave it directly to Lin and Winnie. The 2 women put on soft silk clothes for the first time, and a light in their eyes almost blinded Su Yu. As for why they didn't give it to Kokoro, it was because Kokoro had her own sports coat, which was much better than the rough silk underwear. As for Yaxiang, she wasn't particularly interested in clothing, but she was drawn to chest wraps. Another point was that Su Yu found it more convenient to do things at night. He wouldn't tell Yaxiang about this little thought. At this time, Yaxiang was dressed in her usual outfit, with a chest wrap and animal skin hem, which was light and wild, making her a true warrior. The woman from the White Tiger Alliance suddenly changed the subject and coldly warned, "If you have other matters, I advise you to leave as soon as possible. We in the White Tiger Alliance don't like to take in weak tribes. In the past few days, many small tribe members like Su Yu have come here like a fool. Most of them are struggling and want to rely on a large tribe or alliance to survive. If they can be valued by the other party and absorb into the tribe, it would be great. There are only 3 reasons that can make a powerful tribe have such an idea. One is that they have excellent combat and hunting abilities. The second is that they have a quick mind and can help solve many trivial matters in the tribe. And the last one is that they have good looks. Men like beautiful women, and beautiful women like handsome men. This concept is simple and crude and is very common in any world, and it is learned without any instruction. Men and women with good looks, whether in the alliance or a small Ronin group, would often receive better treatment than other tribesmen. If nothing else, while good looks wouldn't entitle them to do whatever they wanted, it certainly wasn't difficult to get some special treatment. It is not uncommon for a large tribe to take a fancy to a man or woman from a small tribe and absorb them into its territory. So this has become an instinctive means of negotiation for small tribes when they need help from others. And now, the woman from the White Tiger Alliance had this thought in her mind the first time she saw Su Yu. This good-looking boy was most likely brought here by the woman next to him as a bargaining chip. This tactic might work against other branches of the White Tiger Alliance, but you've picked the wrong target. These young ladies are only interested in anecdotes and strange things. No matter how beautiful a man or woman, in her eyes, they are just walking animals. The tall woman sneered in her heart, her face still as cold as snow. Su Yu heard the tall woman's disdain and understood that she had misunderstood something. She couldn't help but smile softly, pulled Yaxiang back behind her, pinched her cheek, and signaled her to be good, saying that she was only there to exchange items. There was no way. Yaxiang was like a tiger guarding its food. so you couldn't always talk to her from a distance. This action was beyond the expectations of several women. The status of the boy in front of them seemed to be not bad. Suyu approached and stopped within the distance allowed by the White Tiger Alliance guards. After carefully examining the women, she said, "I'm only here to exchange things, not to eat or use them. We didn't bring any animal bones this time." "I'm afraid you'll be disappointed," said the tall woman. "Even if you brought it, I'm afraid you can't afford it." The petite girl next to her also snorted. The White Tiger Alliance wasn't just some small, underdeveloped tribe. The bones they brought to trade were all extremely valuable, giant animal bones. These bones could be made into weapons, ground into medicine, and some, in some unusual places, could even be eaten to absorb the magical power contained within. They were truly precious. A piece of rare animal bone could be exchanged for at least 1,000 kilograms of meat. 1,000 kilograms of meat was nearly a week's worth of food for a small tribe of 100 people. To be honest, it was a bit of a luxury. Generally speaking, unless there was a special need, the tribe leader would not consider this aspect. In this era of food scarcity, anyone who is not a fool would know how to choose between a piece of rare animal bone and 1,000 kilograms of meat. Suyu still shook his head. Regarding animal bones, Winnie had given him the most basic knowledge. "It's not an animal bone," Suyu said. Fearing that the other party would continue to misunderstand, she directly stated her purpose. "I heard that you were exchanging a stone. I was quite interested, so I wanted to come and take a look." "Stone?" The tall woman was stunned for a moment. Then she understood. "You mean the Mother's Stone?" "Yes." Sujue nodded. The White Tiger Alliance's recent attempts to exchange a Mother Stone for something are nothing new. The problem is, the stone itself is pretty ordinary, completely useless, and the price is so high. Only someone with a broken head would want to trade it. Honestly, even the women accompanying their young lady were a bit bewildered. After hearing that it was to replace the Mother Stone, Xiao Huahua asked quietly, "You mean, what you want to exchange is this Mother Stone?" As she spoke, she pulled out a palm-sized stone from her bosom. It was irregular, without edges or corners, and not round at all. It was slightly different from what the guard had said. The stone itself was translucent and looked ordinary. Suyu had never seen the Mother Stone, but he had a system with advanced precision scanning capabilities. I called up the system, entered the Mother Stone, and agreed it was immediately marked on the map. The position matched, and it was indeed the real Mother Stone. After confirmation, Suyu nodded immediately. "Yes, I want this stone." This time was Xiao Huahua who was happy. She looked at Suyu carefully again, and, after making sure that he was not joking, she asked, "Do you know this stone? You can't get anything out of me. I won't tell you even if I know." Suyu was certain that Xiao Huahua definitely didn't know the effect of the Mother Stone, but she just didn't know where this woman got it from. Suyu shook her head. "I don't know, I just simply like these weird things. They have the same interests." Xiao Huahua feels much better about Suyu. Yaxiang, on the other hand, felt an inexplicable agitation after seeing the stone, and her witch power began to stir, wanting to get closer, wanting to touch it. It was an indescribable strange feeling. Suyu also noticed Yaxiang's uneasiness, and was even more certain that this thing was closely related to the witch. He pretended to take 2 steps forward, came to Yaxiang, and held Yaxiang's hand to calm her down. Xiao Huahua, who had been sitting, finally stood up. Her tall figure was comparable to Suyu's. "It's certainly possible to change, but the question is, can you afford it?" Xiao Huahua had no idea of the Mother Stone's value. It was a thank you gift from the elves after their White Tiger Alliance accidentally rescued a member of the forest. Elves were extremely rare on the continent, highly intelligent, and rarely seen. Rumor had it that their civilization was far superior to that of other alliances and extremely conservative, but obtaining their technology was impossible for outsiders. When the elves presented the Mother Stone to her, they simply said it might be of use to her. They didn't mention its effects and hurried away. The price of 500 portions of fine salt and 2 horses was also something Xiao Huahua had casually chosen. It wasn't of much use anyway, so it would be nice to exchange it for something. But she didn't want to give it away for nothing, so she set it a bit high. She had hoped to find someone who knew the value of the stone and get some information about it from them. Of course, she would not believe Suyu's words completely. Someone who was willing to spend so much resources to exchange stones must know something. "How do you know we can't afford it?" Before Suyu could say anything, Yaxiang was dissatisfied. After all, she was born in a big tribe, and she didn't like other women looking down on her man. Suyu's eyes widened, a puzzled look on her face. "Sister, Can we actually afford it? How come I don't know? 2 horses are enough, but I really don't have 500 portions of fine salt. I only brought about 10 portions this time, simply because I wanted to see the world. However, the words have been spoken, and I can't slap my wife in the face. Ahem, I think I should be able to afford it. So you finally understood what it felt like to try to be rich and powerful. Words are not enough, Xiaohua said. So you thought for a moment, then took out a bag of fine salt wrapped in branches and leaves from her bosom, and continued, "Here is the fine salt. You can take a look at the quality. However, I want to take a look at the stone first. Can you let me touch it first?" "No problem." Xiaohua is not afraid that Suyu will run away. The petite woman took the mother stone handed to her by Xiaohua and came to Suyu with a look of disdain. "Here, take a good look at it, and give me the fine salt." Suyu nodded and took it, and then there was a slight sound in her head. Ding! A mother stone was found. Data updated. Mother stone, a strange stone that can store and convert witchcraft toxins. It requires a drop of blood to recognize its owner and long-term nurturing. It can assimilate the stored witchcraft power into the same elements of heaven and earth as the owner. It is very rare. Suyu's eyes suddenly lit up. So that's it. The petite woman gave the fine salt to Xiaohua and ran back. "How's it going? Have you seen enough?" She frowned, and seeing Suyu seemed very happy, she became unhappy, hugging her chest and humming. At the same time, she glanced at Yaxiang beside her, and then looked at her chest with inferiority. "Bah, that kind of burden, I don't want it." "Watch it." Suyu handed it back with a smile. He didn't dare let Yaxiang touch it. If something unusual happened, he wouldn't be able to explain it. Snort. The petite woman took the mother stone and turned back. Xiaohua was examining the fine salt Suyu had brought. To be honest, she was a little surprised. Unlike the fine salt produced by their refining technology, the one Suyu brought was finer and whiter. This was enough to prove that this man had mastered more advanced fine salt refining technology. Or, in other words, he had a way to obtain this fine salt. This alone is enough to make friends with the other party. Xiaohua remained calm. Some people had gathered outside the camp to watch the show, and she naturally didn't want this kind of thing to spread too quickly. Xiaohua rewrapped the fine salt and handed it to the tall woman beside her. She turned around and asked, "What do you think?" "It's true." Suyue nodded. His answer was true, not ambiguous, so this man really knew something. Xiaohua curled the corners of her mouth and smiled cunningly. This woman was very observant, and even Suyu couldn't guard against her. 500 parts of fine salt and 2 horses. Do you have them? Xiaohua continued. Actually, Xiaohua no longer cared about these resources. She was interested in something more valuable. Suyu shook her head honestly. Not now. It takes time. I can prepare. This is just looking for trouble. After talking for a long time, I still can't afford it. The petite girl almost exploded, and her arms and legs were about to kick up, but was stopped by Xiaohua. She looked at Suyu and smiled slightly. How about this? Since you like it very much, I can make some concessions. What do you mean? Suyu became alert. Xiaohua smiled slyly and carefully looked at Suyu from head to toe several times and said, "Fight with my guard. Her strength is now first class. If you win, I can give you the mother stone without any resource exchange. But if you lose, you just need to answer some questions of mine." "How is it? It's fair to you." "It does sound fair." Suyu is not stupid. He knows that Xiaohua is interested in the knowledge of fine salt and mother stone. 500 portions of fine salt and 2 horses may be a lot of resources in the eyes of small tribe, but they are not worth mentioning at all for the alliance. The mother stone is of great significance to the witch, so she must never give it up. Moreover, since they were both at the first-class level, Suyu felt that it was not a big problem. "Okay." Suyu looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, "Can you do it? Otherwise, you can ask the women around you to fight." To be honest, Suyu has delicate skin, a fair complexion, and a not-so-strong figure. She doesn't look like a battle-hardened warrior. "Fight? Don't be ridiculous. Fighting in bed?" Suyu's mouth curled up. A man can't say no. Since the other party has agreed, Xiaohua didn't bother to talk nonsense anymore. She turned her head and looked at the tomboy beside her. "Tigress, go ahead and don't beat me to death." "That's great. My arms have been sore these past couple of days. I'd like to play with you." The muscular Barbie stepped out cheerfully, glancing at Yaxiang a few times. To be honest, she wasn't impressed. She felt she was second-rate at best, and she wasn't particularly interested. As for Suyu, she hadn't held high expectations. After all, Suyu was only 18 or 19 years old. On this continent, the strongest genius was only at the peak of the first-class level, let alone someone from an unknown, inferior race. Furthermore, Suyu was delicate and tender, and it was obvious that she had never experienced hardship. To put it bluntly, this kind of person was just a vase in the race. What kind of ability could he have? Generally speaking, she would not bother to attack such an opponent. But since it was the young lady's order, the muscular woman showed no mercy. She swung her muscular arms, took a step forward, and instantly shot out. So fast. The enormous magical power poured down like a tide, and Suyu only felt that the palm of the woman's outstretched hand was like a mountain of flesh, which was going to tear people apart alive. Yaxiang, who had been vigilantly standing by, wanted to step forward to stop him, but was quickly pulled back by Suyu. The woman named Tiger Lady's movements were swift and violent. This woman was truly a tiger. She was indeed a member of the White Tiger Alliance. Suyu did not dare to be careless. Although it was just a competition, and the woman from the White Tiger Alliance did not use her full strength, the force of this attack was not weak. If it hit her body, it would definitely be fatal. Pa! A crisp sound exploded in the small space. There were already many people watching outside the camp. When they felt the cold wind exploding, they all retracted their necks, because they recognized the King Kong Barbie who was attacked by the White Tiger Alliance. She was a renowned figure within the White Tiger Alliance, a descendant of Shao clan, known as Xiao Hunyang. A fierce, humanoid beast, she was known for her fiery nature. Once a top-tier warrior, she was severely injured while single-handedly confronting a mountain beast while protecting the daughter of the great witch Xiao. While her power had declined, she remained terrifyingly fierce. That is a mountain beast, an explosive beast that requires the strength of 1,000 people to fight against. This shows that Xiao Hunyang is not an ordinary tiger. Chapter 34, Trading Tribe 3. Bang! There was a sound like an object breaking through the sound barrier, and the air in the camp was instantly squeezed and contracted by magic power. Suyu's fist and Xiao Hunyang's palm collided with each other. Behind her, Yaxiang suddenly felt a tremendous air resistance, like a violent gust of wind, and she unconsciously retreated backward. The 5 women across from her were also startled. The simple furniture in the tent was thrown to the ground, and violent currents of magical energy raged around. The women immediately protected Xiao Huahua, their brows furrowed. How is this possible? Xiao Hunyang didn't even knock the other person down with one palm? If Xiao Hunyang had unilaterally knocked her opponent away, this situation wouldn't have occurred. This was the force feedback generated when 2 equally powerful forces collided. They really didn't expect that the seemingly weak and thin boy could actually take Xiao Hunyang's palm. Xiao Huahua frowned slightly. Although she was surprised, that was all. She knew very well how powerful Xiao Hunyang was, so she didn't think that the boy in front of her could withstand another blow. He's really strong. Suyu also praised in her heart. The force from her fist was as explosive as the opponent's muscles, but it is still acceptable. The amplitude of power fluctuates in the upper first-class level, which means the opponent has a backup plan. A top-notch fighter. Xiao Hunyang was also surprised, but she quickly calmed down. No wonder you dare to fight me. Then she changed her palm into a fist and hit Suyu in the face again. The power of a fist is much stronger than the power of a palm. Suyu only felt that he was fighting against the combined power of dozens of Songshangs. This woman is really strong. If Suyu knew about Xiao Hunyang's past, because she was seriously injured and her current strength is only 1/10 of what it was, she would probably turn around and run away. Let's see if you can take this punch. Xiao Hunyang shouted loudly, her eyes full of fighting spirit. Yaxiang wanted to attack impatiently, but Suyu, who suddenly retreated, grabbed her arm tightly. It's okay, I can handle it. Suyu hummed softly, her eyes fixed on the front. Xiao Hunyang's fist did not stop because of Suyu's retreat. It pierced through the air and rushed forward with terrifying magic power. If you want to get the Mother Stone, you must deal with the King Kong Barbie in front of you. Suyu made up his mind, put strength into his feet, and sank directly into the mud. The Qilin arm seemed to start to move in an indescribable way. The blood rushed, and he began to revel. A serious punch. Whoever has the loudest voice has higher fighting power. In the original Blue Star, it might feel very childish, but now it is very encouraging. Morale is also a plus point for victory in war. At this moment, Suyu can only move forward. A serious punch? What the hell? Combat skills. But why can't I see anything unusual? The 5 women behind Xiao Hunyang's eyes flickered, not blinking, afraid of missing a detail. At the same time, they were confused by Su Yu's sudden shout. Typically, combat techniques are accompanied by immense magical power or celestial elements, which can trigger a variety of changes. Take Xiao Hunyang, for example. Her combat technique is rock body, where magical power solidifies on her body, transforming into a thick layer of gray-white armor. This was a key factor in her survival in that battle with the mountain beast. But Suyu only had the sound but no physical presence, and the fist he received still looked plain and simple. Maybe it's just to scare people. The youngest girl pouted with a look of disdain. In her eyes, Xiao Hunyang is the hero of the White Tiger Alliance and the god of war in her heart, so it is impossible for her to lose. Xiao Hunyang thought so too, a sneer on her lips. This little boy has a loud voice, but unfortunately, strength can't be displayed by shouting. Trying to bluff me is simply wishful thinking. Dishonest boy, let me teach you a lesson. Xiao Hunyang's magic power then increased a bit more, and the force of her punch seemed to be able to split mountains and rocks. If this punch hit her, she could guarantee that the boy opposite would be crippled along with his younger brother. The 2 men's fists arrived in the blink of an eye. Unlike the sound of the air exploding just now, this time it turned into a huge buzzing sound. Buzz. God knows how 2 human fists could produce a sound comparable to the sound of a giant bell. Perhaps it was simply the result of a chain reaction of bones squeezing out magical power, which in turn vibrated the air. This showed how incredibly hardened the bones of the 2 men were. The sound wasn't sharp, not piercing at all. Yet, it jarred the brain with a sharp pain. It felt as if the brain had suffered a severe blow, and vision was doubled. This was the instantaneous feeling experienced by everyone in the camp, save for the 2 fighting deities. Yaxiang held her head with her hands and shook it hard. She wanted to wake up quickly, but the buzzing sound seemed to have settled in her ears and would not go away for a long time. The 5 girls across from them were so dizzy they nearly fell to the ground. Xiao Huahua bit her lips and pinched her forehead with her fingers, feeling a pang of pain. Her confidence had been shattered by this punch, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. This is absolutely impossible. Under equal strength, she can be sure that Xiao Hunyang will never lose. This is indeed the case, but Xiao Hunyang didn't win either. The 10 guards simply fell to the ground and fainted. This is a fight between gods, and mortals suffer. They're too close, so the impact is too strong, and people below the second rate cannot bear it all. There was no powerful punching, no violent turbulence of witchcraft, just seemingly ordinary witchcraft and the sound of bones colliding, but it made everyone present lose their minds in an instant. Top notch. Xiao Hunyang widened her eyes and gritted her teeth. Outside the camp, the passers-by who were watching the show were also shocked by the sound, and their scalps went numb. Their teeth were chattering, and they started cursing. What the hell, what's that sound? It's so annoying. Stop yelling, I'm deaf. Damn, I thought they were carving a mountain inside. No matter how much they cursed, they only dared to watch from afar across the tents. No one dared to step into the White Tiger Alliance's camp. Going in to exchange items was one thing, and sending them in to seek death was another. Moreover, judging by the situation, with the buzzing of fists and gusts of cold wind, it was extremely dangerous inside. Pain. The piercing pain went straight from his fist to his head. Suyu also gritted his teeth and said nothing. Ashi, the strength of a man, whoever speaks will lose. Obviously, Xiao Hunyang wasn't in much better shape either. If she had used her combat skill, rock body, she might have felt better. However, she knew that rock body could offset external forces, but it couldn't block the witchcraft power that could penetrate the body. I had misjudged the boy in front of me. That punch clearly didn't seem threatening, yet it held such immense power. No. Could it be that the serious punch he spoke of was a genuine combat technique? Combat techniques were incredibly rare in this world. How could a tribe like his, a relatively unknown one, possibly possess them? In reality, Xiao Hunyang's inability to sense the terrifying power of Su Yu's punch was entirely due to a lack of perspective. Simply put, her perspective was too high. Xiao Hunyang was originally a top-tier warrior, and the power that could make her feel dangerous was beyond the comprehension of a top-tier warrior. A combat body's instincts would react to a top-tier attack, but it couldn't care less about a mosquito bite. Even if the extremely powerful elephant is dying, it would never think that ants are dangerous. In general, Xiao Hunyang suffered a loss of her own. Xiao Hunyang also felt the pain from his blow. This made her very unhappy. Before, besides the Great Witch, who else could embarrass her like this? She shook her arms and shouted angrily, "Come again! What, are you still coming?" Suyu hadn't done anything yet, but the 5 women were already rolling their eyes. "Big sister, please pay attention to the back. You two are going to kill us sisters." But it was too late. Xiao Hunyang was so quick that she threw another punch. "Mom, the women in this world are really scary." Suyu groaned in her heart, wondering how she could meet such a fool with super high fighting power. There is no way to retreat, so just fight. The Qilin arm struck back again. Buzz. Chapter 35, Trading Tribe 4. Good job. At the camp gate, a middle-aged man from the upper echelons of the White Dove tribe walked in with a frown. He took a step forward, his arm pressed against the iron sword at his waist, his neck raised, ready to handsomely call a halt. But when he saw the female warrior across from him, his legs trembled, and he immediately turned around. "Is it too late for us to leave now? Why is it that Xiao Hunyang is the iron-headed and silly woman?" He had heard the sound of fighting in the camp while on patrol, so he went in to stop it. However, he had never expected that the ones causing the fight would be Xiao Hunyang and a young boy. Okay, as a senior elder of the White Dove tribe, Hanzhan held his forehead with trembling hands. He could no longer bear to watch. At this rate, he should prepare to collect the bodies. However, the next moment he was completely stunned, his eyes widened like bells, and his mouth opened wide. The buzzing sound made his eardrums hurt. He just watched Xiao Hunyang throw a punch, and the boy actually withstood it? Wrong. Instead, they punched each other. This is fucking impossible, okay? That's Xiao Hunyang, the famous iron-headed fool of the White Tiger Alliance, and a former top-notch warrior. A tribal legend who fought alone against mountain beasts and saved the daughter of the Great Witch. Even though he has fallen a great realm now, he is not something that ordinary first-class warriors can contend with. She couldn't even kill the other person with one punch. Hanshan's chest was shaken by the buzzing sound, and his blood was boiling. He looked at the young man who was fighting with Xiao Hunyang in disbelief. How old was this young man? 18 or 19. Where did it come from? "I don't believe I can't beat you." While everyone was surprised, Xiao Hunyang raised her fist again. "Stop! Stop!" Hanzhan had no choice but to show up. In order to protect the rules set by the Beige tribe, he had to bite the bullet and mediate. The voice behind Xiao Hunyang came from Xiao Huahua. She frowned, her face ashen, completely frightened by the torturous buzzing sound in her head. If Xiao Hunyang continues to fight, everyone here will be finished before the two of them fall. "Tiger Mother, stop fighting and come back." Xiao Huahua called out softly, suppressing the pain in her chest. Xiao Tiger Mother turned around and saw her tribesmen, some fainting, some clutching their heads, some staggering, looking rather miserable. "What's wrong with you? Is there an earthquake?" Xiao Hu's mother touched her head, still a little confused. I don't want to pay attention to you now, and I even want to roll my eyes at you." Xiao Huahua was both angry and happy. Xiao Hunyang was her savior, and that was her nature. She had no choice but to be angry with her. "Miss Xiao, we meet again." Hanzhan was also shocked by the aftermath of the incident. His face turned pale, and his eyes fell on Su Yu and Yaxiang, with a dangerous light in his eyes. "Boy, which tribe are you from? Don't you understand the rules here? Private fighting is forbidden in the trading tribes. This has been an ironclad rule for over a decade." Seeing Hanshan's gesture, several White Dove tribe members approached, iron swords in hand. While this young man was powerful, this was ultimately White Dove territory. Want to cause trouble? Better consider the weight of your own tribe. Yaxiang was unhappy about this. She pulled out the dagger, and it shone with cold energy. Her ferocious look frightened Hanzhan so much that his heart trembled. Not to mention him. Even Xiao Hunyang's group of women had their eyes shining. "Is this knife made of iron? It's so finely crafted, it gleams with a cold luster. Which tribe produced it? We didn't break the rules." This was the woman who proposed the competition herself. Yaxiang said loudly, holding the dagger tightly in her hand. As long as the group of white pigeons dared to come over, she would definitely stab them. Because of the white pigeon tribe's involvement, a large crowd had gathered outside the camp. The white pigeons valued their reputation above all else, so they naturally couldn't have the final say. This woman looked fierce, but she didn't seem like someone who would lie. Han Zhan frowned and looked at Xiao Huahua, the eldest daughter of the White Tiger Alliance. Miss Xiao, is that so? The White Dove Tribe and the White Tiger Alliance have dealt with each other many times, and Han Zhan knows Xiao Huahua very well. She would not lie about such things. That's right. Xiao Huahua replied softly. A group of spectators outside the camp were also sighing. I really didn't expect that this guy could fight on par with Xiao Hunyang. I'm actually quite interested in the weapon in that woman's hand. It looks sharp just by looking at it. I wonder which force forged it. That's true. Now that you mention it, I feel like the iron sword in my hand is fake. No one knows whether the blade is sharp or not, but just looking at the cold light on the white blade of the dagger, you can tell that it is not simple. Forehead. So am I meddling in other people's business? It would be too embarrassing to leave like this. Han Shan's old face turned slightly red. He coughed and said, since this is a competition, I won't pursue responsibility. But rules are rules after all, so let's end it here. After Han Zhan finished speaking, he quickly left with his tribesmen. However, he was also quite curious about which tribe this boy came from. With top-tier strength, he could fight on par with Xiao Hunyang of the White Tiger Alliance. Such a person's existence itself was already very valuable. Under the current circumstances, it is impossible to continue fighting. What do we do now? Suyu was a little depressed, frowning. After Han Shan's interference, there was no winning or losing. Xiao Huahua rubbed her swollen temples and said helplessly, let's call it a draw. However, since you didn't lose, we can discuss the matter of the Mother Stone later. Looking at the crowd present and the heads sticking out from outside the camp, Xiao Huahua patted her lips lightly, rubbed her shoulders, and said angrily, I'm tired. Come back tonight. I'll wait for you here. Suyu was stunned. Before she could respond, her body was grabbed by Yaxiang. Why at night? Yaxiang looked even more alert and fierce than Suyu. No reason. It's okay if you don't come. The stone is here anyway. Oh, we can't stay for a few days, so if you want to, do it as soon as possible. Xiao Huahua waved her hand and said, Tigress, let them all go. We won't be changing things today. As soon as Xiao Hunyang appeared, there was no need to drive them away, as all the onlookers ran away. Han Zhan exchanged a few polite words with Xiao Hunyang and Xiao Huahua, then left. Xiao Huahua didn't seem to want to give Suyu any chance to dawdle. She gave her a pretty back view and left the meeting tent. Suyu understood that Xiao Huahua didn't want too many people to know, and she must have other purposes. It would not be easy to exchange this Mother Stone. Taking Yaxiang away, Yaxiang had a cold face and looked very sour all the way. It was the first time Suyu saw Yaxiang like this, and she felt it was both novel and cute. A slightly raised mouth, a tall and delicate nose, and angry eyes. Yaxiang is nearly 1.8 meters tall, half a head taller than Suyu. Thinking back to the first time they met, this girl was as cold as ice. It has only been more than a month, and she has become his woman, and it was she who took the initiative. It feels a bit dreamy and not quite real. Are you going tonight? Yaxiang asked after a long moment, her tone filled with dejection. She knew she was a bit overbearing, having gone from a bold and decisive woman to a troublesome little woman. Suyu was only going there tonight for the Mother Stone, which was her main purpose for this visit, but she couldn't just ignore it. If you don't let me go, then I won't go. Suyu smiled and touched her hair hanging down her back. The people around them paid little attention to them. After all, after leaving the White Tiger Alliance camp, how many people knew him? This place was full of good and bad people, and there were incidents big and small happening every day. Who would deliberately care about these things? All they know is that the White Tiger Alliance's broken stone seems to be exchanged by a fool. After a long while, Yaxiang clenched her fists and said helplessly, Go ahead, I won't stop you. Suyu smiled. Then I will go earlier and come back earlier. Chapter 36. At night, the bonfire in the trading tribe lit up half the sky red. The level of liveliness was dozens of times greater than that of the Black Snake clan Suyu had seen before. 6 women from the White Tiger Alliance sat in a tent, eating dinner. They sat on mats made of hay wrapped in animal hides, with a tiger skin rug in the middle. On top of it were freshly roasted wild boar meat and a variety of wild fruits. Several huge coconuts had been cracked open and placed aside. Xiao Huahua sprinkled the fine salt Suyu had brought over the cuts of meat and took a gentle bite. Wild boar meat itself was quite tough, and even when roasted thoroughly, it still had a nice chewiness. Xiao Huahua tasted the salt with her tongue and found it had a pleasant texture. It wasn't as harsh and bitter as the salt sold on the market. Xiao Huahua's brows relaxed, and her eyes brightened a lot. It tastes good. You guys should try it too. Really? Hey. Xiao Hu's mother, tall and strong, picked up a handful and sprinkled it on the wild boar leg. She took a big mouthful, chewed it for a long time, swallowed it hard, and then looked at it with a what-taste expression. There's no difference. It's the same meat I ate before. The two tall women couldn't help laughing. Tiger mother, you eat too fast. How can the food taste good? They're sisters. The older one is named Xiao Yin, and the younger one is named Xiao Meng. They're Xiao Huahua's personal maid since childhood. They were originally slaves, but because they followed Xiao Huahua, the daughter of Xiao Dao, they not only became members of the White Tiger Alliance, but were also given a surname. Is it really delicious? The petite girl was named Xiao Mimi, Xiao Huahua's half-sister. She looked at her sister suspiciously as she enjoyed the food, and finally couldn't help herself, sprinkled some salt on it, and took a bite. The wild boar meat still tastes the same, but the saltiness is really good. The last woman, a woman of moderate build, was named Xiao He. She was a newly promoted first-class warrior and, along with Xiao Hunyang, was Xiao Huahua's personal guard. The difference was that Xiao Hunyang had come voluntarily, while she was arranged by the tribe. Xiao He ate some pork and naturally felt the difference in taste of fine salt. Halfway through her meal, Xiao Mimi suddenly asked her sister, "Sister, do you think that guy will come over?" "Yes." Xiao Huahua nodded affirmatively. "Because he needs this." "How do you know, miss?" Xiao Ming asked while chewing pork. "Woman's intuition. I think he knows the function of the mother stone." Xiao Huahua smiled slightly. "This boy is very interesting. His existence is very contradictory. Don't you see that? First, his skin is very white. He doesn't look like a child from an ordinary tribe. Even in the Alliance, it's rare to see one so well-fed. To be frank, even I'm a little jealous. Secondly, the knife carried by the woman next to him is definitely not an ordinary iron weapon. Nowadays, the iron smelting and sword-making technology is kept secret by each alliance. Perhaps one of them has truly developed a more advanced one. Furthermore, the fine salt he brought with him, the refining methods of which are certainly not as good as ours. So, judging from all these factors, he must be from a powerful alliance. The five women listened to Xiao Huahua's explanation and began to think. In their hearts, the eldest lady was the most meticulous in the alliance, with strong observation skills, and was countless times smarter than them. Xiao Mimi shook her head and continued. "Sister, why do you say he's conflicted?" "Clothing, behavior." Xiao Huahua's eyes lit up. She loved observing and analyzing people, especially those with strange origins like Suyu. He's wearing the coarsest linen. Such clothing is rare, even in larger tribes. This shows his tribe is very poor, and the people's sewing skills are very backward. I've also asked Hans Han about this. Hans Han learned their whereabouts through the tribe members, and among the people living there happened to be one familiar to the White Dove Guards. He said that group came from the remote southwestern forests and didn't come here often to exchange goods. Each time, they only brought a few women, and the resources they exchanged were very small. They didn't seem to be a wealthy tribe, or even a tribe at all, but more like a small tribe, a roving band. That's the real contradiction. His origins and clothing are completely inconsistent with his circumstances. Secondly, his behavior. During the confrontation with Tiger Lady today, I noticed that he cared deeply about the woman next to him. He was trying to stop her from taking action. This is very strange. She was clearly a warrior he brought with him. Perhaps she was his woman, but to care so much about her is clearly abnormal. Women can't fight, so they can only stay in the tent and take care of trivial matters. As a warrior, neither her man nor her father will intervene for any reason. This has been the meaning and value of being a warrior for hundreds of years. If I were his woman, I might be happy that he cared so much about me. But if I were a warrior in the tribe, I would want to be on the front lines of the war to protect the ones I love. This boy is unintentionally depriving that woman of the meaning of her existence. If you were in her place, Tigress, what would you do? Xiao Hunyang glared at him and said, "What do you want him to do with this kind of man? Just slap him to death. A warrior can die standing, but will never hide behind others and live in disgrace." Xiao Huahua smiled and said, "There are two explanations for this situation. One is that the woman has abandoned her identity as a warrior and chosen to be a woman handling trivial matters in the tent. But the scars on her body explain everything. The second is that this man simply does not understand the rules of this world. He doesn't seem to be doing this intentionally. It's a subconscious act, choosing to protect his woman. It's a habit, and it's also what our parents taught us since childhood. It's obviously not in line with our education here. So, he is most likely not from the place we know. After saying this, Xiao Huahua raised her neck with satisfaction and took another bite of pork. If Suyu was present and heard this, she would probably never want to deal with this woman in her life. This woman's logical reasoning ability is absolutely first class. It's not a place we know? Then where could it be? Xiaoyan also piqued her interest, blinking with curiosity. Although she was born a slave, she had always lived in the White Tiger Alliance. Furthermore, following Xiao Huahua around, she had learned a lot about the outside world through osmosis. This made her even more curious. Could a place that even a young lady didn't know exist? Xiao Huahua pouted slightly. This was also something that made her very unhappy. I don't know. I heard from my father that there are several continents in this world. They may come from the other side of the water. To travel between these continents, one needs to cross areas full of water. With current technology, it is difficult to pass through, so one can only rely on wishful thinking. Deliberately avoiding the topic, Xiao Huahua directly asked Xiao Hunyang, "Hunyang, you fought with him today. What do you think of his strength?" Xiao Hunyang pulled out another pig leg, took 2 bites, and snorted, "Very strong. At this age, with such strength, there are few such talents in the Alliance. And, more importantly, he has learned combat skills. Fighting skills are not something that can be found everywhere, so the origin of this boy is too strange." Xiao Hunyang continued, "To be able to reach the pinnacle of the first-class level at the age of 18 or 19 is not something that a small, insignificant tribe can cultivate. You are right, he is very strange." Just as they were about to finish their meal, the guard whispered outside the tent, "Miss, the man from lunch is here." Xiao Huahua suddenly perked up. "Take him to my tent, Tiger Mother. You come with me." "Good." Chapter 37. The 2 women then came to another tent in the camp. At this moment, Suyu had already been arranged to go in and was sitting on a leather mat, waiting quietly. He couldn't get 500 parts of fine salt at all now. Since the other party wanted to negotiate terms, Suyu came alone. "You are quite punctual." Xiao Huahua smiled and sat down opposite, while Xiao Hunyang, whose visual sense exploded, stood aside. "In our hometown, honesty and trustworthiness are the basic conditions for doing business." "Suyuis Maid." Xiao Huahua rolled her eyes and asked calmly, "Did your woman let you come here? During the day, I saw that she didn't seem very happy that you came here at night. If she refuses, I might not be able to come tonight." Suyu smiled back, completely unaware that this was another small pitfall. A man who considers his woman's opinion? That doesn't exist in this world. It's not that men are superior to women. It's simply that male warriors have been raised that way since childhood. The only people whose opinions or orders you need to obey are the clan's chief, clan leader, or elders. The man in front of me really didn't come from a normal place. Xiao Huahua also knew that it was basically impossible to get all of this out, and there would be no benefit if she angered the other party, so she didn't go any further. Xiao Huahua then took out the mother stone and placed it in front of Suyu. "This is what you need." Suyu didn't take it, but stared into Xiao Huahua's eyes and asked, "What are the conditions?" At this point, he no longer thinks that this woman came just for 500 portions of fine salt. Xiao Huahua smiled and gently covered her lips. "What can you give?" The question was thrown back again. This woman was very clever. Before she knew the value of the mother stone, she didn't intend to self-destruct. It was obvious that the man before her couldn't meet her initial requirements. So, she wanted to let him choose for himself. This might not make any money, but it would definitely not lose money. After all, the boy in front of him knew the value of the mother stone and would definitely consider the conditions mentioned based on this. Of course, if he takes advantage of the situation and lowers the price too much, Xiao Huahua doesn't mind taking the mother stone back. Suyu didn't think much about it. She had already considered this aspect after returning home in the afternoon. What our own ethnic group can offer now is actually very limited. He extended a finger and said slowly, "We can't give you the horse, and the amount of fine salt isn't enough. How about the technology? I can give you some water purification technology as well." Xiao Huahua was stunned. To be honest, she didn't expect it to be this. Every alliance has the technology to purify water. However, Suyu took out a bamboo tube filled with water and handed it over. "If the deal goes through, we'll bring the fine salt over. This is purified water." The water was clean, with little smell of mud and a relatively smooth taste. Xiao Huahua frowned suspiciously. "It's a little better than our water, but it's not worth much." Suyu seemed to have expected the other party to say this, and smiled slightly, and said, "This water was purified in less than half an hour." The timekeeping method in this world is very simple. There are 24 hours in total during the day and night, and there are no minutes or seconds. Half an hour is about 15 minutes on Blue Planet. Xiao Huahua was completely stunned. This was absolutely impossible. She knew the Alliance's water purification technology best. The fastest sedimentation method plus plant decontamination took 6 hours. To achieve the speed Suyu mentioned and the quality of the water in her hand was simply a fantasy. But she instinctively felt that Suyu was not lying. Water is the very foundation of a tribe. Clean, unpolluted water is rare on this continent, hence the need for purification technology. The value of this technology far exceeded the value of a few hundred parts of fine salt. If she could bring it back, her father, Xiao Dao, would be elevated to a higher level. Furthermore, the White Tiger Alliance would stand out from the crowd. How do you prove what you said? Xiao Huahua's eyes became deep. I can teach you on the spot, but I have to take the Mother Stone first. Suyu said, "Good." Xiao Hui straightforward ni saprao Suyu. He then took the Mother Stone and said, "Aren't you worried that I'll run away?" "You try running." Xiao Huahua said nothing, but Xiao Hunyang behind her snorted coldly. "This woman is very tough, so Suyu said that everything you said is right. There is no way. He is too strong." Afterwards, Suyu followed Xiao Huahua to the big tent, and under the watchful eyes of 6 women, she explained and manually performed the water purification method. Everyone was stunned as they listened to it, as if they were listening to an incredible story. However, as the clear water dripped into the bamboo tube, they had to believe the facts before their eyes. The boy was not lying. He possessed a skill that they could not understand. Thinking about it this way, could it be that he also refined the fine salt himself? Xiao Huahua was full of curiosity. She even wanted to open Suyu's head to see what was inside. "Where are you from?" "Are you from the forest elves?" Before Suyu was about to leave, Xiao Huahua couldn't help but ask, because only the secluded elves possess this strange and advanced technology. Forest elf? Suyu had a good impression of Xiao Huahua, so she smiled and shook her head, saying, "To be exact, I'm from Blue Star, which is very far from here." Blue Star? Xiao Huahua's eyes lit up. How far is it? Suyu looked up at the night sky. If you could ever reach those stars, you would know how far they are. "My name is Xiao Huahua, the daughter of Xiao Dao of the White Tiger Alliance. I hope to see you again in the future." Xiao Huahua looked at Suyu's departing back and felt a little depressed unconsciously. "My name is Suyu. Suyu Ismail. The Rose Tribe is a tribe of shrine maidens, and they cannot be exposed to the public. So I can only apologize to this young lady. The sky is full of stars. The Mother Stone has been successfully obtained, and Suyu is in a good mood." Back in the tent at the camp, Suyu discovered that Yaxiang was still awake, sitting cross-legged on the hay, waiting boredly. It wasn't until she saw Suyu lift the animal curtain that her eyes lit up. "Has it been agreed?" "Well, it's so late. Why don't you sleep?" After struggling with the White Tiger Alliance for quite some time, it was already nearly 10 o'clock in the evening. Suyu came over and touched Yaxiang's face happily. "Waiting for you." There was fire in her eyes, and it was unclear whether it was magic power or desire. She just looked at Suyu, and her expression suddenly became serious. "Suyu, I want to give birth to a child for you." Suyu subconsciously looked at her abdomen. Her beautiful belly button was ruined by several scars. "Why do you suddenly want a child?" Yaxiang shook her head. "I don't know. I just want a child with you." Ding. Increases Yaxiang's favorability by 600 critical hit. Ding. Yaxiang's favorability has increased. Current status. Admiration. Yaxiang was a little strange today. Suyu didn't quite understand, but she felt like she had touched something, including the fact that she had been working hard to train her magic power, and also the fact that she suddenly said to herself just now, "I want a child." This should be a very contradictory thing. How could someone who wanted to become stronger suddenly want to have a baby? Having a child meant a 10-month pregnancy, and becoming a housewife like Lin, who only took care of chores at home. But this was obviously not something Yaxiang was good at. Suyu scratched his forehead and felt a headache. In the end, he simply stopped thinking about it. Women's hearts are as unpredictable as the sea. He felt that he still had a long way to go. "I opened the system out of boredom and saw the rapidly rising favorability value during this period, and my palms started to itch again. In recent times, the favorability value has accumulated by more than 1,600 points, which is equivalent to 3 10 consecutive opportunities. This is a considerable fortune for Suyu. What he can do with his favorability points now is to perform 10 consecutive draws and upgrade the map radar function. After breaking through to become a first-rate warrior, combat skills have now been added to the pool, so it's well worth trying. System, open the lottery page and start the lottery. Familiar recipe, familiar task. Ding! Congratulations on winning the consolation prize of a bottle of stamina potion. Ding! Congratulations on winning the consolation prize of a bottle of stamina potion. Ding! Congratulations on winning a bottle of super stamina potion, the consolation prize. Ding! Congratulations on winning the consolation prize of a bottle of stamina potion. After 10 draws, it was plain and simple, with a few small surprises, 9 bottles of stamina potions and 1 bottle of super stamina potion. Suyu's eyes lit up. This was the first time she had drawn one, and she immediately looked up the instructions. Super stamina potion. This is the max version of the stamina potion, boasting 50 times the effect of a regular stamina potion. It cannot be used in conjunction with regular stamina potion and will automatically cancel out the effects of regular potions. It's recommended to use this potion 2 days after taking a regular potion. Is that the feeling of taking the highest value of the same buff? Suyu silently memorized it, lest she mess it up in a fit of impulsiveness. 50 times the effect, I wonder what that will be like. Suyu looked at her own Qilin arms, then carefully touched her lower back. Finally, she pulled up the fluffy quilt, her gaze passing over Yaxiang's white mountains and landing on herself. She couldn't help but gurgle. If you strengthen any one of these 3 things, you will feel like you are at the peak of your life. No, it's so superficial. Suyu. Never strengthen. Gulp, gulp, gulp. He drank 9 bottles of stamina potion directly. Who swore that just now? How would I know? The power gushed out at this moment. The lower abdomen swelled violently, and the huge condensed power was converted into magic power in the body, like soldiers receiving orders, rushing to the internal organs. I can feel my heart beating more steadily and powerfully. My breathing is smoother and more comfortable. My internal organs are undergoing tremendous changes, and my 8 abdominal muscles have become as hard as iron. No, where are my 3 favorites? Didn't win any of them. Is this good? This is not good. Ashi, I'm going to charge. Suyu licked his lips, his eyes gleaming as he stared at the last remaining bottle of super stamina potion. He knew he couldn't drink it now, but who would calm his impulsive heart? It would be too animalistic to bother with Yaxiang, who was already asleep in his arms, so he gave up. Suyu's eyes flashed with excitement, and she simply made up her mind. Gamblers online. Goodbye, good impression. 20 consecutive draws. Then the sound of ding, 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 ding came to my ears continuously, like playing a piano, jumping in my mind. All the rewards of physical strength potions appeared, and Suyuela's eyes were full of smiles, just like a greedy businessman who heard the sound of coins falling to the ground. As long as there were stamina potions as a reward for the 20 consecutive draws, Suyu wouldn't feel like he was missing out. Sometimes he even wished he'd just kept stamina potions in the pool. They were just as potent as the whip, so who would want too much? Ding! Got half a can of chili sauce, laughs. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the combat skill Woolly Phantom. With the last ding, the 20-draw streak ended. Chapter 38 Trading Tribes 5. Suyu was so surprised that he was speechless. He originally thought that he would be in trouble and get only ordinary physical strength potions, but he didn't expect that he would get 2 surprise prizes in the end. But why is it only half a can? System, did you leave the rest for me? Rolling his eyes silently in his heart, Suyu looked at another reward. Combat skills, which power shadow. Unleashing all of one's magical power. A physical image is formed outside the body, increasing combat capabilities several-fold. The magnitude of this increase is related to the size of the resulting phantom. Suyu chose to study without hesitation. Ding! The combat skill Woolly Phantom has been learned, and the host strength data has been updated. Then, Suyu checked her strength data interface. Host, Sujue. Strength stage, the peak of first-class warriors. Woolly skills, Serious Punch level 2, Woolly Phantom level 1. Which power shadow? Level 1. Current shadow range is 20 cm outside the body. 20 cm? It was just an ordinary student ruler. Suyu quietly pulled the Qilin arm back from Yaxiang's chest and stretched it into the air. As his mind moved, pure white magic power gathered in his arms, overflowing from his pores. As if imitating a pattern, a layer of white mist shaped like an arm formed in the air. Furthermore, this condensed shadow of magic power synchronized with Suyu's arms, clenching, opening, and waving fists with extraordinary flexibility. Suyu was instantly excited. If this energy was released throughout her body, wouldn't it be like her body expanded 20 centimeters outwards? As her level increased, she would likely become an outward expanding giant. Just thinking about it made her feel so cool. Although he didn't know how powerful it was yet, Suyu was already quite satisfied. As the saying goes, too much joy leads to sorrow. The 18 bottles of stamina potions that followed seemed a bit of a letdown. After drinking it, the generated witchcraft power flowed through his limbs and bones. Only 5 strands of power strengthened the Qilin arm, while the remaining 14 strands were like a drop in the ocean, and there was no news of them as before. Suyu was somewhat aware that this should be to strengthen and stabilize the foundation, so as to make full preparation for the body to break through the first class and become super first class. Without the support of these solid and heavy magic powers, it would be difficult for him to fight Xiao Hunyang today. When Suyu thought of that Barbie doll, his scalp tingled and his spine went cold. Onaji. Oh? Onaji. When I woke up again, it was already early morning. The sun had just risen and there was a hint of coolness in the air. Suyu, Yixiang, are you awake? We can leave now. Outside the tent, Vero's somewhat awkward voice called out. Suyu opened her eyes and sat up. Yaxiang beside her was wrapping her chest with linen. She put her arms behind her back and tightened the cloth carefully. Wake up, we'll be out soon. Are you hungry? Suyu suddenly asked again. Yaxiang shook her head and said, let's go out first. We can eat on the way. Good. When the animal curtain was lifted, Vero was standing outside. The other 2 tribesmen had already packed their things and loaded them onto the horses. None of the potatoes were traded, but all the fine salt was replaced. He also exchanged some cotton and linen, as Suyu requested, along with a few plant seeds. Suyu was a little confused by the potatoes' fate, but he accepted it. After all, his main purpose for this trip was to replace the Mother Stone. Besides, he wasn't good at sales and marketing, and trying to sell a completely new food product wasn't easy. People in this world were very practical, and their ability to accept new things wasn't that strong yet. There were so many people here, Suyu planned to return to the tribe as soon as possible to study the Mother Stone. He didn't dare give it to Yaxiang, so he kept it on himself. The group planned to leave in the early morning, but found that the people in the trading tribe had gotten up earlier than them and were gathering in one direction as if they were going to market. It is the center of the entire trading tribe, a huge open space, and also the place where the White Dove tribe uses to exchange valuables. Suyu suddenly remembered what she heard in the crowd yesterday. The White Dove tribe would take out a very mysterious item for exchange today, and they had specially arranged 2 great witches to escort it. Curiosity slowed him down. Yaxiang seemed to have guessed what her man was thinking and whispered, let's go and take a look. There's no rush to go back anyway. Vero was such a smart guy. He immediately understood and nodded. Why don't we go and take a look? To be honest, she was quite interested too. With 2 tribesmen guarding the goods, Suyu, Yaxiang, and Wei Luo followed the crowd to the center of the trading tribe. A familiar figure was also seen in the crowd. Baiwa, a clever and quirky little girl from the Ghost clan, who was carried on the shoulders of a tall, red-faced man, shaking her little head excitedly. The red-faced man had long hair and a beard and was wearing animal skin clothes. At first glance, he looked brave and handsome. Suyu was dumbfounded and really wanted to forge a crescent-shaped sword and give it to him. It would be a pity if you didn't go to cost the second master. My second brother is invincible in the world, broken voice. Thinking of this, Suyu couldn't help but burst out laughing. The little girl was completely attracted by the lively atmosphere and was some distance away, so she did not notice Suyu. There were also many complaints and curses among the crowd because they got up too early. If this was replaced with animal bones, I promise to twist your head off. I just barely managed to fall asleep late at night, and I'm so sleepy. How could that be possible? Just think about it. With 2 great wizards escorting it, it must be a very precious thing. Isn't it about exchanging daughters? Ha ha ha. I heard that the chief of the White Dove tribe has a very beautiful little daughter. Speak a little more quietly. Are you afraid that the people at Beige can't hear you? Don't get yourself killed and implicate me. There were all kinds of guesses, even if they were full of complaints, cursing and angry. They never stopped walking. In the end, a large group of people crowded into the open space in the center. At this time, in the center of the open space, on a platform built of huge wood, there were already 8 people. Suyu only recognized one of them, the White Dove Elder Han, who had appeared at the White Tiger Alliance camp yesterday. Among the other 7 people, there were 2 middle-aged men who were obviously out of place. They were wearing fine cotton and linen clothes, with shiny iron swords on their waists, and their hair cut short and neat. They sat expressionlessly at the back of the booth, where there were 2 high wooden seats arranged by Baigu. They were finely crafted and engraved with bird-shaped patterns of Baigu. The other 5 people looked ordinary, standing cautiously at the edge of the booth with their hands behind their backs. So you could feel that all 5 of them were top-notch fighters. As for the 2 men, clearly from a different class, their bodies seemed devoid of any magical energy, giving the impression of being mere ordinary humans. But if you met their stern, clear eyes, you'd feel as if you were plunging into an icy cellar, your feet freezing cold. The closer you got, the stronger and clearer the feeling of fear became, searing itself deeply into your eyes and heart like a branding iron. Their breathing was like the concentrated breath of a ferocious beast, coldly preparing a thunderous strike to shred their opponent. This was pure intimidation, without the slightest interference of sorcery, a simple and crude one. Is this the Great Witch? Suyu glanced at him twice and felt a tightness in her chest, so she quickly looked away. She had never expected that the human race, the most powerful force in this world, would be so close. Suyu wasn't overly envious. After all, through the system's insights, he already knew that there were even stronger beings above the Great Wizard. In this world, from the lowest rank to the highest rank, they were all mere tools. Only by breaking through these barriers and reaching the superclass level, or even the Great Wizard, and above that, the Wizard King, Wizard Saint, and Wizard God, could one truly possess the power to influence the course of battle. Suyu firmly believed that with the help of the system and his own efforts, he would be able to reach that level. Of course, right now, we should follow our heart. Let's get started. Chapter 39, Trading Tribes 6. Seeing that most of the people had arrived, a great wizard waved his hand. Han nodded immediately after hearing the voice, walked to the middle of the booth, cleared his throat, and shouted loudly. Today is the March exchange meeting held by our White Dove tribe. Unlike private exchanges, this is an open, fair, and just exchange. Everyone present can propose their own conditions and bid. Of course, the final item goes to the highest bidder. 3 bids are a sign of the order. If you miss the deadline, the order will be considered abandoned. In Suyu's opinion, it was just an auction, and the things that could be put on such a table were generally not bad. Let's get started. I'm getting impatient waiting. That's right, it started too early this time. I'm still waiting to go back and get some sleep. The voices of the complainers grew fainter, perhaps feeling the pressure from the 2 great witches on the stand. Then, Han waved to the audience, and several white pigeons lifted the animal hide covering the stage and lifted the giant beast bones. Today, there are 3 items for exchange. This is the first one. It's the skull of a wild beast that lives in the mountains of the southeast region. Mountain beasts, a massive beast native to the mountains and jungles, can reach a stature of 20 meters. Their massive size and strength make them a nightmare for many tribes. However, if you can successfully hunt them, the rewards you'll receive, including meat, bones, and organs, are truly beyond your imagination. However, even 1,000 warriors would find it difficult to capture this beast. So many people from smaller tribes had only heard of it and had never seen it in person. Even the White Dove trading tribe rarely brought it out for exchange. Beige is only responsible for replacement, and naturally it is impossible to disclose the employer's information. As soon as the skull was carried out, there was a commotion in the audience. Just because most people haven't seen it doesn't mean that everyone is like this, and some people immediately raise questions. This skull seems a bit too small. It's only this big. Is this still too small? Look at the hole in that mouth. It could hold more than 20 people. Don't talk nonsense if you haven't seen it. This skull is indeed much smaller. It may not be an adult mountain beast. Adult mountain beasts are enormous. Their skulls typically half the size of a basketball court. This one was clearly a juvenile. Even so, its skull was the size of a car, requiring 7 or 8 white pigeons to barely lift it. The 2 holes, which were larger than lanterns, looked somewhat scary. Its teeth were sharp and formed barbs, and there was still a lot of meat residue and bloodstains on the pale bone surface. The shape of the skull was very similar to that of the ancient Tyrannosaurus rex, which made Su Yu's eyes twitch. With my current strength, I'm afraid I can't even defeat the young of this mountain beast. In front of Su Yu, on the other side of the booth, several women from the White Tiger Alliance occupied a space. Xiao Hunyang looked at the skull and squeezed it with her fists, making crackling sounds. Her current strength has fallen by a large realm, and she has been reduced to the peak of the first-class level. Isn't it because of this beast? Although she has a somewhat simple personality, she will never show mercy to her enemies. The mountain beasts are her lifelong pain and lifelong enemy. The skull of a mountain beast can be ground into powder. Consuming it can significantly improve physical fitness and purify one's own magical power, making it a rare treasure for a warrior. Although this is a young beast, the magical power contained in its bones is considerable, making it quite valuable. Han Shan immediately shouted, 2,000 kilograms of beast meat is the base price. You can also exchange it for resources of equal value. Start bidding now. 2,100 kilograms. 2,500 kilograms. 2,600 kilograms. The sounds came one after another, but they were not as intense as Su Yu had imagined. After all, animal bones were useless to small ethnic groups and tribes. They could watch the show, but it was unlikely to be exchanged for them. Yaxiang beside her bit her lip, staring at the huge mountain beast skull with burning eyes, looking eager to struggle. Su Yu couldn't help but roll her eyes. My dear wife, forget it. We can't afford it. Poverty is the original sin, and it is useless no matter where you are. Yaxiang was naturally thinking about her man. If she could get the skull back and nurse Su Yu back to health, perhaps he would be able to break through to the top level even faster. Of course, she was just thinking about it. She knew the tribe's current situation better than anyone else. In the end, the mountain beast skull was exchanged for 3,500 kilograms of beast meat by a pot-bellied man. There is envy and disdain among the crowd, which is based on everyone's different values, or perhaps it's just simple jealousy. Now let's start the second one. After the cub skull was moved away, Hans Han continued to shout, iron ore, 30 pieces. Each piece of iron ore, as heavy as a wash basin, was carried directly by the top-tier warriors. They were brought to the platform piece by piece, and soon half the booth was filled with it. Oh my god, the White Dove tribe is really generous today. It's fine if it's just mountain beast bones, but now they're even offering iron ore as an exchange? I wonder which tribe got lucky enough to find another iron mine. Damn, these damn alliances. Water and food were essential for survival, while iron ore was a wartime resource. However, iron ore was far more valuable, and most of it was held by large tribes and the alliance. Historically, such exchanges were rare in the White Dove trading tribe. Even if an employer with sufficient funds appeared, they wouldn't trade for 30 pieces at once, as they did today. 30 pieces of iron ore, base price 10,000 kilograms of meat. Just like at the beginning, the comments and groans outnumbered the bids. Iron ore was good, and indeed precious, but the problem was that small tribes and groups simply didn't have the iron smelting skills. Even among the larger tribes and the alliance, the level of iron smelting skills varied widely. The baby animal skull from before, at least it could be ground into powder and consumed after it was exchanged back. So why exchange this thing back? You can't eat it. Is it just for fun? Su Yu also understood that this large-scale trade was entirely for the large tribes and alliances. After all, only they possessed sufficient resources and technology. If a small family really gritted their teeth and poured their entire clan's strength into the trade, they might not only not reap any benefits, but also end up being exterminated. Don't be fooled by the thousands of people crowded together in the venue now, talking and laughing and hugging each other's shoulders. But once they leave this camp and the place under the jurisdiction of Baigu, they will all be strangers who can stab you in the back. The iron ore auction finally ended quietly. What made Su Yu curious was that the women from the White Tiger Alliance had remained silent from the beginning until now, showing no intention of bidding, seemingly completely uninterested in these two items. It wasn't just them. Some alliances and large tribes were also lurking in the crowd, motionless. It seems that the last piece of cargo is their goal. What is it that is more precious than wild animal bones and more valuable than iron ore? Su Yu recalled some of the knowledge about this world that she had learned from Winnie and Yaxiang, and was suddenly shocked. Could it be? Okay, now let's move on to the last item. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to it. This should be the first and most valuable item in the history of our White Dove tribe. As he spoke, Hans Han raised a wooden box in his hand and took out a thin object made of some animal skin. Because of this significant commemorative significance, we have obtained the consent of the other tribe and will disclose their information. This time, the exchange is for a fire elemental combat skill called Sky Wrath Explosion, commissioned by the leader of the Flame Dragon tribe. Wow. For a moment, the whole place was silent, and you could hear a pin drop. Chapter 40 Trading Tribes, 7. It took a long time for the crowd to react, and there was an expression of disbelief on their faces. Brother, pinch me and see if I heard correctly. We're going to exchange, now, our combat skills. Sky Wrath Explosion. That sounds familiar. It seems to be the fighting skills of a deceased great wizard named Shur from the Yanlong tribe. The question is, wouldn't it be better to keep this thing for our own tribe? Why would we want to exchange it? Do you think combat skills are so easy to learn? You could just do a couple of dog crawls, and you'll be able to do it? The audience was buzzing with discussion, and it was no wonder. Combat techniques were so rare that even those reaching the level of a great shaman might not even have the chance to learn them. If one were to create them on their own, they might die without even scratching the surface. In many alliances, many great shamans willingly sacrificed their lives for their clan leaders simply for the sake of combat techniques. They swore a heavenly oath with their clan leaders, a mysterious power that could not be broken once sworn, lest they suffer divine punishment, their own shamanic power backfire, and ultimately be shattered to pieces. For example, one of the two White Dove tribe great shamans currently seated at the booth had chosen to give up his freedom for combat skills. If he knew there was a young man in the audience who already possessed 2 combat skills, I wonder if he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. The appearance of the fighting skills caused a huge uproar, and the entire venue became a commotion. Hans Han cleared his throat, his expression solemn, his head held high, and his chest puffed out, looking dignified and sacred. My mouth opened, but I couldn't get a quote. 50,000 kilograms of meat, 3,000 portions of salt, and 100 pieces of iron ore. This combat technique book is for my White Tiger Alliance. In the crowd, Xiao Huahua's clear voice suddenly rang out like pearls falling on a jade plate, startling everyone present so much that they were stunned for a moment. A local tyrant. A true rich man. The last 100 pieces of iron ore alone are enough to exchange for the first 2 items. Hans Han on the stage twitched his mouth and forgot everything he was about to say. No, it's the first time I've exchanged combat skills in decades. Can't you just let me show off properly? Suyu was also frightened by Xiao Huahua's generosity, and her heart was pounding. If you have money, you can do whatever you want. Hey, isn't this Miss Xiao from the White Tiger Alliance? Why, you like this thing too? A sarcastic voice rang out from the other side of the crowd. It was a middle-aged man with a mustache wearing a sheep-horn skull and a wolfskin. He laughed. We in the Sky Beast tribe don't have that many resources, so we'll just give Miss Xiao 1 more of each. It's starting now. It's so pretty. Wow, there's so many resources, just listening to them makes me satiated. However, Aguda is so blatantly teasing the White Tiger Alliance. Isn't he afraid that Xiao Dao will confiscate his clan's land? Don't talk nonsense. The Sky Beast tribe is different now. I heard they are working on forming an alliance with the Crescent Moon tribe. No wonder you're so brave. The crowd became restless. Xiao Mimi could no longer sit still. She stood up like a little tiger, but was pulled back by Xiao Huahua. Be quiet. Xiao Huahua chuckled. Sister, who is this ugly guy? Xiao Mimi said dejectedly, gritting her teeth. Xiao Huahua didn't even look at the other person, but faced Hans Han directly, her voice firm and crisp. Hans Han, just follow my instructions. The Sky Beast tribe will always have less to offer than I do. New. Hans Han looked straight ahead with no expression on his face, but his heart still favored the White Tiger Alliance. After all, it was easy to distinguish between a beautiful woman and an ugly one. I, Hans Han, never judge people by their appearance. What is heroism? This is heroism. Just one sentence can crush an entire tribe. Shit. Aguda cursed fiercely. He was at best an elder of the Sky Beast tribe, with no real authority. Several alliances had already known about the emergence of this combat technique, so the Sky Beast tribe's chief had chosen to forego it. What was there to fight for? Neither resources nor combat power were comparable to anyone else's. Everything needed to wait until we reached an alliance agreement with the Crescent Moon tribe. Their most important thing now is to come out on top in the competition with the Crescent tribe. This way, they will have more say after becoming an alliance. So, Aguda had only intended to tease Xiao Huahua verbally, but he hadn't expected to be humiliated by her words. She hadn't even looked at him. He would have been happy even if she had scolded him, but being directly ignored was too infuriating. Aguda stared at Xiao Huahua sinisterly, his eyes rolling around, and he said nothing more. "Haha, sister, you don't mind Big Brother joining in, right? And here comes the old man. How can such a lively atmosphere be without me? Ahem, you're all grown up. Aren't you ashamed to be playing around with a girl here?" Voices came from all directions, some familiar and some unfamiliar. Xiao Huahua frowned. She knew very well that it would not be easy to take away this fighting skill, but she couldn't help but feel nervous when she had to face several people from the Alliance at once. Silver Wolf Alliance, Giant Elephant Alliance, Black Iron Alliance. Xiao Huahua looked at the direction of the voice and the eye-catching patterns on the other party's body and murmured. None of them were easy to deal with. Their strength was comparable to that of the White Tiger Alliance. More importantly, from the Silver Wolf Alliance she was familiar with, a great wizard whom she had met before had arrived. In this case, the other two alliances are definitely not bad either. At this point, Xiao Huahua had to admit that she had lost. The Great Witch from her father's side would take 2 days to arrive. In 2 days, who knew how many unpredictable things would happen? Ada Zangi, Great Wizard Zhang, is here too. Please forgive me for my old age and poor eyesight for not seeing you. It's such a surprise. Old Man Sun from the Giant Elephant Alliance stood up. He looked old and miserable with his white hair and beard and hunched body. But if you think so, you will surely die miserably. This old man who looks weak and vulnerable is actually a great wizard in the Giant Elephant Alliance. Hee, same to you. Zhang Yi of the Silver Wolf Alliance sneered, while Zhang Dao beside him raised his eyelids and nodded slightly to show respect. The man from the Black Iron Alliance was a broad-set man, even more massive than Xiao Hunyang, as sturdy as a small mountain. His broad, honest face was filled with smiles, and his chubby hands gently patted his thighs. If one paid attention to his eyes, they would have revealed a deep, cold gloom, as deep as a pond, so chilling that it was impossible to look directly at them. Huang Mo, a long-established elder of the Black Iron Alliance, is also the only native great wizard in their alliance. He is a brother of the clan leader. The two of them relied on their own strength and ruthless means to develop an inconspicuous tribe into the current alliance splendor. What's going on? Bullying the little girl is useless. Give me an explanation. Huang Mo was very direct and didn't bother to beat around the bush. The 3 alliances appeared here just for this combat skill. Whether the tribesmen could learn it or not was their own ability, but they had to fight for the thing back. The White Tiger Alliance was indeed quite powerful, but in the current situation, without a great wizard in charge, how could they possibly steal their combat skills? All 3 of them just laughed in their hearts. Even if I change it for you, can you take it back? The 3 of them simply ignored Xiao Huahua and started negotiating. I'm too lazy to divide the meat, find salt, and so on. Just order 500 pieces of iron ore. Old Man Sun sat firmly on the high platform with a scorching gaze, stroking his white beard with his hand. That's quite generous, Old Man Sunday. Are you really selling your newly discovered iron mine like this? Although a great shaman from the Silver Wolf Alliance had also arrived, he was only following the orders of the clan leader to complete Zhang Yi's mission. In short, he was only responsible for fighting and escorting. Therefore, it was Elder Zhang Yi who came forward to negotiate. The members of the Giant Elephant Alliance have been very active recently. It is rumored that they have annexed a medium-sized tribe and obtained an iron mine that was being developed by the other party. They're truly rich. It's just SOSO. There's no use having too much of this stuff, huh? Old Man Sun smiled with a Versailles look on his face. However, what he said is true. Nowadays, iron smelting technology is scarce, and iron or cannot be well refined and utilized, which is a waste. Zhang Yi didn't hesitate any longer. He snorted coldly and said to Hans Han, "We can't compare to others in iron ore, so we'll exchange it for something else. 300 pieces of iron ore, 20 pieces of giant beast skulls, and 20,000 portions of fine salt. In terms of value, it is slightly smaller than Old Man Sun's, but in terms of utilization rate, Zhang Yi's is much more useful. However, Hans Han is a businessman, so he must seek the opinions of his superiors and employers." A member of the White Pigeon tribe hurriedly followed orders and got out of the crowd. After a while, he came back and reported to Hans Han in a low voice. What the upper echelons and the Flame Dragon tribe mean is the utilization rate. Okay, got it. Han Zhan nodded. If he were asked to choose, he would also be willing to take Zhang Yi's share of the resources. After all, there was too much iron ore, which was really a problem. Han Zhan then responded to Zhang Yi. The White Dove tribe has recognized that the Silver Wolf Alliance has more resources than the Giant Elephant Alliance. This was really beyond Old Man Sun's expectations, but he was not worried. Besides iron ore, he had plenty of resources. 50,000 kilograms of meat, 100 high-ranking slaves, 30,000 portions of fine salt, and 200 pieces of iron ore. After being silent for a while, Huang Mo finally spoke, which startled the other two. What a big deal. Chapter 41. Compared to resources, 100 high-level slaves? Are you serious? That's much more valuable than inanimate objects, a vital resource for long-term, sustainable development. Fighting skills are good, very good, and extremely good, but once the resources required exceed one's mental tolerance limit, one will hesitate. Zhang Yi frowned, remaining silent. Old Man Sun narrowed his eyes slightly, then finally made up his mind. 100,000 kilograms of meat, 600 pieces of iron ore, and 50 high-level slaves. Holy shit, you're coming too? Are you all engaged in slave wholesale? Now Zhang was left with his mouth twitching, caught in a dilemma. If they advance, they will need to throw out more resources than Old Man Sun. And if they retreat, they will lose face for his alliance. Their silver wolves are not as good as giant elephants and black irons, and the number of high-level slaves is small. They are not exchanged for resources. This is the iron rules set by the clan leader. What? If you can't come up with anything better, just watch the show. Huang Mo snorted coldly, and Zhang Yi immediately spat and shut up. Seeing Huang Mo's carefree and unconcerned look, he knew in his heart that this mission was already a failure. What about you, Old Man Sun? Continue. Huang Mo raised his eyebrows, showing no humanity at all. In his eyes, none of them could fight. In a battle of alliances, the odds might be even, but in a battle of resources, I'm sorry. I can just lie here and waste time with you two today. 120,000 kilograms of meat, 120 high-ranking slaves, 32,000 portions of fine salt, and 220 pieces of iron ore. Huang Mo said lightly. Oh, Old Man Sun's face turned pale, and he snorted coldly. It's better not to use this fighting skill. In that case, it belongs to me. Han Zhan also realized that this thing was most likely settled. Huang Mo stood up with his mountain-like body and was about to lift his legs. At this moment, the beautiful lark-like voice at the beginning was heard again. Wait, I didn't say no. Xiao Huahua raised her eyebrows and smiled. Are you three old loaches finally done? It's my turn now. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Zhang Yi's eyes were blazing, and for the first time, he looked at the young girl so seriously. Old Man Sun remained silent, watching the frustrated Huang Mo with great interest. What? You want to continue? Little girl. Huang Mo was so angry that he laughed. What? Can I exchange it? Xiao Huahua looked straight ahead, unfazed. For the first time, Suyu found this woman rather attractive, and she was curious about what the White Tiger Alliance could offer in exchange for this combat manual. The resources Huang Mo had just mentioned were already excessive. Suyu wondered if Xiao Huahua could speak up, but could she truly represent the Alliance? After all, she was merely the daughter of a great shaman of the White Tiger Alliance. Huang Mo looked at Xiao Huahua's face, which didn't look like she was joking, and then sat back down. He said calmly, "Continue." The spectators around were almost all stunned. They had no idea whether they were rich or not. Their small tribe probably couldn't even imagine such an astronomical amount of resources in their lifetime. Does the White Tiger Alliance really have so many resources? Can it compare with the Black Iron Alliance? How would I know? Do you think Xiao Dao would vomit blood and faint if he knew his daughter had lost the Alliance here? You're so stupid. If the Alliance didn't give her the order, how could she, the daughter of a great witch, make the decision? Amidst the various opinions, Xiao Huahua stood up gracefully and said to Han Zhan, 100,000 kilograms of meat, 300 pieces of iron ore, and 33,000 portions of fine salt. At this point, Han Shan's eyebrows twitched. Miss, are you planning to go toe-to-toe with the Black Iron Alliance again? And you're offering even less than they do. Remember, Huang Mo isn't a Gouda. Would the White Tiger Alliance be willing to forge a grudge against him if they offended him? Han Zhan didn't say anything, but subconsciously looked at Huang Mo. The mountain-like body was trembling. Huang Yimou raised the corners of his mouth, and the smile on his face was so bright that it was creepy. Is this girl kidding me? It's okay to play with fire, but don't take it too far. If she really intends to do this, I don't mind teaching her a lesson on behalf of her father. This is not the White Tiger Alliance. As someone who comes from outside, there are some things you cannot say casually, and some people you cannot offend. However, Xiaohua didn't care about Huang Mo's murderous gaze and continued to open her little mouth. The crowd and the audience all thought that the eldest daughter of the White Tiger Alliance was fooling around. Only Su Yu's mouth twitched. He seemed to be able to sense what this woman would say next. Really? Also, Xiaohua extended her slender fingers. I will give you the right to exchange for an advanced technology. Wow. For a moment, the crowd was filled with surprise, confusion, and bewilderment. An unknown high-tech exchange, right? Why don't they understand when these words are put together? Could it be that she possessed technical knowledge more valuable than combat skills? Even if she did, could she be the leader of the White Tiger Alliance? Hanzhan was also confused by Xiaohua's actions, standing on the stage at a loss. This was an unknown advanced technology. If it was real, it would be an immeasurable resource and wealth, and he had no say in it. But if it was fake, Xiaohua was really asking for trouble. Hanzhan, you can take my sister to the higher-ups and the people in charge of the Yamlong tribe. They will naturally give you a satisfactory answer. That's right. It's useless for me to just stand here. Hanzhan nodded. Okay, come with me. Xiaohua whispered a few words in Xiao Mimi's ear and asked the Xiao sisters to go with them. The technology for purifying water sources will naturally not be handed over directly to the Yamlong tribe. Other resources can be evaluated in kind. The purification technology only requires the other party to provide water, complete it behind the other party's back, and then deliver it. After all, the time and water quality are guaranteed. I believe that as long as the people of the Yamlong tribe are not blind, they will definitely know the value of it. This time, Hanzhan also went together, and the trip took quite a while. The crowd's eyes gradually became sympathetic as they looked at Xiaohua, because in their eyes, Xiaohua was just being unreasonable, teasing the White Dove tribe, the Black Iron Alliance, and the Flame Dragon tribe all at once. This was practically the same as courting death. Only Su Yu knew that although this seemingly simple technology was not top-notch, it was very valuable to the tribe. Girl, if you stop now, I can forget what you just said. Huang Mo's face was as gloomy as water. To be honest, he didn't want to make enemies with the White Tiger Alliance right now. But if they bullied him, he couldn't blame them. Xiaohua smiled sweetly. Thank you very much, but I must get this combat skill book. Okay, I hope you've thought of your last words, so that your father won't hear anything and only see your corpse. Huang Yimou said no more and waited for Hanshan's return. Isn't Xiaohua panicking? Panic. Chapter 42, Trading Tribes 8. Xiaohua was arguably more panicked than anyone else, but her fear wasn't that the deal would fail or that the Yamlong tribe wouldn't agree to her terms. Rather, it was what would happen after the exchange was completed. If they stayed in the White Dove trading tribe, it might be difficult for them to get into trouble. After all, there were already 3 White Dove tribe members here, including the 2 great shamans escorting the combat skills, so their safety was naturally somewhat guaranteed. The problem was that this area was only a temporary trading venue, and there was no telling when the White Dove tribe would leave. It is still unknown whether the great wizard arranged by my father will arrive in 2 days. This time, she couldn't afford the gamble. If she replaced this combat skill, her life would be threatened by unknown factors. If it weren't for the development of the alliance and her father's status, she really wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Therefore, she must plan ahead and make all preparations in advance. After a while, Hanzhan came back with Xiao Mimi. From a smile on the little girl's face, it could be seen that the deal was done. Huang Mo's brows suddenly tightened, and he couldn't believe it. Old Man Sun and Zhang Yi thought of the same thing at the same time. The advanced technology that girl talked about is real. Impossible. Although each alliance had some secret technologies hidden within them, they would inevitably leak out. They could be unaware, but they definitely couldn't be completely clueless. In other words, this technology was most likely acquired recently. This is a trading tribe, which easily reminds people of the source of technology. Zhang Yi and Old Man Sun's faces were filled with strange colors, and their eyes looking at Xiaohua also had a hint of other meaning. Huang Yimou still had that frightening smile on his face. Great, which Huang Yimou, the Yamlong tribe has already recognized Miss Zhao's resources and conditions. What do you think? I give up. Huang Mo responded without any hesitation. The exchangeable rights for a high-end technology are comparable to most resources. Its value may be poison to small tribes and ethnic groups, but for large tribes and alliances is capital for development. The Yanlong tribe is not stupid. They naturally know how to make a choice. There was no point in providing more resources. Moreover, it had already exceeded the value he had defined in his mind. Let's go. There was no need to watch any further. So Suyu released the hand that was covering Yaxiang's eyes and pulled this woman who occasionally acted crazy away. Vero followed closely behind and soon found his fellow tribesmen and reunited with them. The group then left the White Dove trading tribe. Suyu, no fool, could have guessed that Xiao Huahua would become a target for certain factions because of this combat technique, including that mysterious technique. But it had nothing to do with him. He and Xiao Huahua had only just met by chance, so why would he worry about it? The White Tiger Alliance must have known about this. Perhaps the great shaman who was supposed to protect her was already on his way. Moreover, Yaxiang told Suyu that there were people from the Crescent Moon tribe in the trading tribe. This is a place of trouble, so it's better to leave as soon as possible. The return journey was more arduous than the one coming here, as many other tribes happened to be returning to the tribe at the same time as Suyu. To avoid contact with other tribes, Suyu took a long detour while observing the map radar and choosing the direction. This whole process took a day and a half. Yaxiang had long been convinced of Suyu's ability to avoid danger, so she didn't ask any more questions. Wei Luo and the others were bewildered and could only follow behind foolishly. As for the use of the Mother Stone, Suyu planned to hand it over to Winnie when she returned to the tribe. This stone allowed the witch to ignore the witch power toxins in her body and successfully complete her awakening. It was indeed an item born for the witch. In Suyu's opinion, Yaxiang no longer needs this thing. She has become his woman, and he is a natural Mother Stone. When Yaxiang wakes up again, it is estimated that there will be no witchcraft poison in her body at all. At the same time, Suyu also guessed from Xiao Huahua that her Mother Stone might be related to the forest elf she mentioned. However, Yaxiang knew very little about this mysterious tribe, having only heard her father mention it when she was a child. So Suyu planned to go back and ask Winnie about it. After going around in circles, it was already late at night. The night in the wilderness was extremely cold. Suyu and her tribesmen set up their tents and lit a bonfire. With Yaxiang around, they didn't even need a lighter. The elements of heaven and earth were truly convenient. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. These elements of heaven and earth each embody the laws of natural evolution. They can greatly enhance the abilities of a shrine maiden. A shrine maiden who reaches the third awakening experiences a qualitative breakthrough, a true awakening, rivaling the might of a great shrine maiden. Combined with their male-dominant constitution, it's no wonder they face widespread ostracism. Yaxiang's flame has a wide range of uses. Once upon a time, Suyu also considered asking the tribes which was close to the water element to make clean water. However, the magic power contained in that water was too great and it could not be drunk at all, so taking shortcuts would not work. Wei Luo and two other tribesmen huddled in the tent, nibbling on dry jerky instead of dog food. Suyu sat by the tent curtain, carefully coating the meat with chili sauce. Yaxiang sat cross-legged beside him, watching curiously. She sniffed. It was a bit pungent, yet strangely alluring, and her tongue watered. Suyu chuckled, reached out and hugged Yaxiang in her arms, then stuffed the dried meat coated with chili sauce into Yaxiang's mouth. What? With her mouth full of food, Yaxiang's eyes became brighter and brighter. The spicy taste suddenly exploded in her taste buds. Because she ate too fast, she couldn't help coughing. What is that? It hurts. It hurts. She didn't understand what spicy was, so she could only use words she knew. Yaxiang, who had remained calm despite the cuts on her body, now looked like an ordinary girl, gasping for air with her mouth open, coughing up tears. Suyu laughed heartily and patted her on the back. Eat slowly, you might have choked. Come and drink some water. After gulping down a few gulps of water, Yaxiang's cheeks became unusually rosy and her expression became rich and colorful. The tip of his tongue slowly licked his lips and looked at Suyu. Suyu, I still want. What do you want? Suyu said with a wicked smile. It's the strange liquid you smeared on the dried meat. Yaxiang rolled her eyes, knowing that Suyu was teasing her. But I just can't forget the stimulating pleasure and taste I just had. Suyu smiled and took out the dried meat again and continued to apply it. This thing was just like spicy strips. The more you ate, the more addictive it would become. Suyu naturally understood Ayange's feelings. He tore the dried meat into 2 halves, gave each of them a piece, and started eating. To be honest, he was so moved that he almost wanted to cry. Except for the chocolate at the beginning and vinegar. It has been a long time since I last ate condiments other than salt, let alone something like chili that stimulates the taste buds and whets the appetite. I ate a little too hastily, and some chili sauce was stained on the corners of my mouth. Gurgle. Chapter 43. Suyues gualud subconsciously. Yashang suddenly said, "This is such delicious food. Let's give some to Vero and the others. Then spread some chili sauce on them, and send them over with some dried meat." Suyu thought for a while, and said, after spreading some of the dried meat, a layer of chili sauce was visibly missing, and she felt so sad. When I was bored, I suddenly remembered that I still had a bottle of super stamina potion. Then he drank it in one gulp, feeling deeply moved. At this moment, a strange black shadow appeared in the distance. The huge black shadow makes people feel scared, which is based on the human instinct of fearing the dark and the unknown. There is no moon tonight and even few stars, so the lighting is very poor. Suyu didn't want to dwell on it anymore, instead blaming herself for being too relaxed. The map radar function was good, but there were no early warnings, so she needed to constantly check every creature that appeared around her. The black shadow in front of him was huge, much taller than himself, and a little familiar. Could it be a black bear? This is the only ferocious beast I'm familiar with. His eyes could see very far at night, but the shadow at this moment happened to be out of range. Suyu didn't have time to look at the map radar. If she had taken a look at this moment, she would have known that it was not a beast at all. As the shadow slowly approached, Suyu finally saw its outline clearly. The outline is a bit strange, like a human but not a human, quite scary. Suyu immediately became alert, tensing her muscles and ready to fight at any time. Yaxiang was still chatting in Wei Luo's tent, so it was best not to disturb her for now. The black shadow approached step by step, as if with some difficulty. As Suyu's vision gradually became clearer, her expression became shocked, and she was even speechless. It was indeed a person, but because there was another person on his shoulders, the combination looked too strange in the dark. How could it be her? Suyu frowned, and her eyelids began to twitch. This was a bad premonition. Xiao Hunyang. That's right, it's this woman with explosive muscles and a body full of tendons, who could be called a Barbie doll. At this moment, she saw the fire in Suyu's camp and walked over instinctively like a moth. There is no doubt that the person is Xiao Hunyang. But this is a bit too tragic. At this moment, Xiao Hunyang's body was covered in horrific knife wounds. Her cotton and linen clothes were already riddled with holes. Beneath the wounds, deep enough to reveal the bone, lay bloody white flesh. Her arms, thighs, abdomen, and limbs were completely untouched. If the wound hadn't spared many vital areas, she would have been dead. Her hair was disheveled, and her cheeks were stained with blood that had long since dried. Her face was as pale as paper, and her eyes, which had once been bright and lively, were now difficult to open. The blood-soaked Xiao Hunyang was like a walking corpse. After catching sight of Suyu, her eyes moved slightly, and her dry lips opened with difficulty. "Miss, save her." The woman she carried on her shoulders was none other than Xiao Huahua. Xiao Huahua was unconscious, her body and face covered in thick bloodstains. It was unclear whether it was Xiao Hunyang's or her own. The woman's face was pale as a cadaver, and she suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood. Her white arm drooped, and the fingertips were still dripping with blood. After muttering those words, Xiao Hunyang's strong body like a mountain fell straight down. Boom! She was like a heavy corpse, smashing heavily to the ground with a loud crash. "What's going on?" Sujue. Yaxiang and Wei Luo were immediately startled and poked their heads out of the tent. Then, their eyes widened in disbelief as they stared at the two people lying on the ground. Suyu did not respond. Her brain was running like a computer machine at high speed. In fact, he had already made his decision the moment Xiao Hunyang appeared in his sight. Take Yaxiang and Wei Luo and leave this place immediately. Don't care about anything, and let them fend for themselves. Suyu was not naive enough to think that the other party was just some insignificant little character, as she was able to injure Xiao Hunyang to this extent. Thinking about the auction of combat skills 2 days ago, Suyu's scalp felt numb. He even suspected that there was the shadow of a great wizard behind this matter, an existence that he could not reach at all now. Pack your things quickly. Just as Yaxiang and Weiluo were about to approach to check who the two people lying in the pool of blood were, Su Yu stopped them with a cold shout. It could be said that in Yaxiang's eyes, Su Yu was brave, decisive, and gentle. Sometimes she could be a little mean, but never this serious. Yaxiang is not a stupid woman, and neither is Weiluo. They immediately realized the seriousness of the matter, and chose to believe Su Yu without hesitation. His own people must not be exposed to irrelevant dangers. This is the most direct decision instinct after Su Yu's brain calculations. Leave immediately. Doing so might be unfair to the two women in front of him, who had only met once and were on the verge of death, but it was the safest course of action. Su Yu couldn't take them away, and he didn't want to risk the lives of his own people. He quickly came in front of the two people, glanced at them briefly, and found that they were still breathing. To be honest, he felt bad. Although he had Yunnan Baiyao, Xiao Hunyang's injuries were too severe, and this medicine was completely ineffective. There was no time to treat her. I hope you can escape this. Su Jue Saith softly. Behind him, Yaxiang and Weiluo had quickly packed up everything, but just as Su Yu was about to stand up, a huge feeling of dizziness came over him. What the hell? Chapter 44. A vast magical power stirred within her body, and Su Yu quickly realized it was the effect of a super stamina potion. The magical power rapidly solidified and gathered. Within her body, once a stagnant pool, the lake of magical power began to stir. From the initial ripples, it gradually expanded, becoming unbridled and violent, until it became a vortex capable of swallowing everything. Su Yu's body began undergoing earth-shattering changes. In just a few thoughts, sweat was already pouring down his forehead. This situation can be said to be very bad. The witchcraft power, like a flood, was transforming Su Yu's internal organs and blood vessels. Now was the critical moment, but the critical moment was too unfortunate. This is really shooting oneself in the foot. Su Yu didn't expect that the super stamina potion was different from the ordinary stamina potion. It would produce side effects, and the abnormalities were very obvious. Su Yu bit her lips, feeling a little annoyed. Why couldn't she just go back to her clan and use it? The magical power raged within his body, this time no longer strengthening a single point, but penetrating his entire body. The blood vessels on Qilint's arms were bulging, as if they were about to burst. Hurry up. Su Yu suppressed the force that was about to explode in her chest, took a few steps forward, and spoke again to Yaxiang, who looked worried. Without hesitation, Weiluo led his people to evacuate quickly. However, Yaxiang noticed Su Yu's abnormality, her eyes flashing, and she quickly caught Su Yu, who was about to fall, carrying him on her back without saying anything. She knew that now was not the time to ask questions. You can't walk fast if you carry me on your back. As a second-rate soldier, he was only slightly stronger than an ordinary person. How far could he run with Su Yu on his back? Buzz! Just as he was about to say something, Su Yu heard a roaring sound, and his mind went blank. The world before his eyes shifted, black and white instantly reversed, and Su Yu arrived in a world where only black and white remained. He stood at the horizon where the two intersected. The black half stared down at him like the abyss of hell, while the white half was warm like spring. His fingers touched it, and the white shattered, but then instantly solidified, a strange thing. Xiaoai. So you try to call the system. I am here. What's the situation now? Don't you understand? The cold, mechanical voice in his mind suddenly seemed to take on emotion, flesh and blood. In that world of white and black, a physical entity had even taken shape. It was a woman dressed in blue star clothing. Su Yu was stunned, speechless. This woman, who couldn't even be called a human, appeared as his sister. The elder sister slowly floated closer, looked at Su Yu's surprised expression, and smiled. First rate is the limit of humanity in this world. Super first rate is the gift of the world's will to mankind's efforts, and now, you are about to enjoy this gift. However, you are very special. There is a power that I cannot understand interfering with you. So, even though I woke up, I can't expel it. You are very interesting, which made me change my original intention and not give you a direct reward like others. Her voice was soft, but emotionless. With a light tap of the finger, the black and white worlds were reversed again. This time, black covered the sky, like a huge night about to fall. I leave the right to choose to you. Su Yu knew that she was not his sister, nor was she a system, but the so-called world she spoke of. This discovery shocked Suyu greatly, but it was not that he could not understand the meaning of the world will. In this world, first-rate abilities are the pinnacle of normal worldview. Just like on the original Blue Planet, no matter how much training and learning humans undergo, their bodies ultimately reach their limits. To break through, they must rely on mutation. Hence the saying, poverty comes from mutation, wealth comes from technology. But that only exists in novels and movies. However, this place is different. The existence of world consciousness makes those limits no longer the peak. As long as you work hard enough and fight hard enough, you will have the opportunity to break through yourself, be blessed by the world's will, and become even more powerful. Suyu was somewhat flattered to be able to face the ultimate existence of this world. Do I have a chance to return to my original world? Even though he had completely lost desire for this, he still asked. My sister blinked, as if a little confused, but still nodded. Of course. Then she opened her arms, as if embracing the world. Compared to that boring world, isn't my world interesting? Or do you want to see her again? My sister pointed at herself. She was my sister, and she's dead. I know. My sister still smiled. I can see all your memories. To me, it's just the end and rebirth of a life. There's no point in being sad about it. That's because you have no feelings. So I don't need feelings. My sister seemed a little sleepy, her eyes about to close, when her voice suddenly became sweet. I've said too much to you. Talking to creatures in your own world is wrong. Well, I'm about to fall asleep again. I look forward to your choice. Her body began to shatter like glass, turning into tiny specks of starlight in the air. This is the road you'll soon face. Black is you, white is you, but neither is you. I hope I can see you again the next time I wake up. Interesting human. The black and white world fell into silence again. Suyu's confused eyes gradually became clear. Seeing his sister again, even if it wasn't his sister, he was already very satisfied. Just as the will of the world said, his sister had passed away and was reborn in a corner of a certain world, starting a new life. And I will start my new life here. Blue Star has become a thing of the past. Now is the home for Yaxiang, Kokoro, Winnie, Lin, and their tribesmen. Suyu looked up at the dark sky and stretched out her hand. The black power seemed to be sensed and entered her arm little by little. In an instant, Suyu's eyes were filled with bloodshot and bloodthirsty, manic, vicious, greedy, tyrannical, and other horrible emotions exploded in her mind. If she were completely assimilated by this power, it is not difficult to imagine that Suyu would become the most cold-blooded and ruthless monster in the world. Ha! Without any hesitation, Suyu stepped hard and broke the boundary between black and white. The white world line shattered in an instant. As her body sank, the white energy was as bright as light, warming the entire white space. It was like a warm current that melted into Suyu's body. Suyu's lips curled up. She was right. The will of the world is like a child watching a play. She hates a monotonous, boring world. Hence, the concept of gift-giving. She broke the limits of human beings and gave everyone new power and new hope, simply because she wanted to make her world more interesting. So, she gave Suyu two choices. The system's intervention piqued her interest, yet also piqued her displeasure. No child would be happy without full control over their own toys. So she gave Suyu two extreme paths with a malicious sense of humor. Either transform into a devil, or become the kind-hearted saint that Suyu hates the most on Blue Star. If Suyu really thought that the world had taken a fancy to her and came to talk to her, and was full of confidence, she would probably be played to pieces. As she said herself, she doesn't need emotions. But she wasn't wrong. Both black and white were the real me. Suyu wasn't greedy, but she wasn't kind or giving. Since everything was hers, she might as well take it all back. He is not an immortal, so he does not need to forget all his emotions, all his good and bad thoughts. That is his truest and most complete self. Therefore, there is no need to reject or resist, just accept it. Two completely different forces flowed through the body, wanting to merge, but also wanting to devour each other, and the pain increased by more than 10 times. Suyu's whole body was convulsing in pain, and she curled up into a ball in the boundless world. It was indeed not an easy task to break through her own limits. Because of the intervention of the world's will, the pressure Suyu has to bear is several times that of an ordinary person. Chapter 45, Dark Night 1. Found it there. There's a fire. Hurry up. We don't have much time, so we need to make a quick decision. After a few brief conversations, a group of 9 middle-aged men in linen clothes came through the darkness and appeared around Su Yu's camp like ghosts. 3 top-tier warriors, 6 first-rate warriors, all armed with bone-cutting iron knives. They looked like executioners, full of cruelty. On their exposed arms and shoulders, a layer of flesh had been scraped off, stained with blood, where they had painted tribal patterns. This was a premeditated and organized robbery. To conceal their identities, the group even went so far as to shave off a layer of flesh from their own hands. Clearly, they came from a reputable tribe. Xiao Huahua would surely recognize them. This was also intended to prevent the mission from failing and the White Tiger Alliance from launching a furious counterattack. 1 combat skill and 2 high-end technologies are enough for them to take risks. There were 9 men, among whom the leader was a bald man. He went straight to Xiao Hunyang and Xiao Huahua, who were still unconscious. The bald man squatted down and looked at Xiao Huahua carefully, a fierce gleam in his eyes. It's okay if she fainted. We can't kill her now. The higher-ups have instructed us to dig out the techniques we know. As for this woman, the bald man looked at Xiao Hunyang again, seemingly helpless and at a loss. He raised the iron sword in his hand, but hesitated for a long time before stabbing. As if noticing the bald man's dilemma, another tall and thin man came over and patted him on the shoulder. Forget it. She's already dead. It doesn't make any sense whether I stab her or not. Indeed, a normal person would have died long ago after suffering such serious injuries. If it weren't for Xiao Hunyang's naturally strong physique, she probably wouldn't have survived until now. The tall and thin man and the bald man were from the same tribe. He knew that the man in front of him had many people he admired, including Xiao Hunyang. The warriors of this era are also the most respected and admired ones. Xiao Hunyang, single-handedly battling mountain beasts, was once a legend within the White Tiger Alliance. If it weren't for their mission, how could she have resorted to such despicable tactics? The bald man knew that if Xiao Hunyang's realm hadn't fallen, the 9 men combined wouldn't have been her match. Possessing top-notch combat skills, Xiao Hunyang was once too powerful. But now, the legend is a thing of the past. The tall and thin man gave the bald man a way out, and then he withdrew and stood up. Several first-rate warriors moved swiftly and carried Xiao Huahua, who was leaning against Xiao Hunyang, out. Do you want to chase? A soldier kicked out the bonfire that had not yet burned out, glanced at the simple tent, and then looked sinisterly into the night not far away, where a moving black shadow could be vaguely seen. It seems that the other party didn't run too far. The higher-ups demanded that everyone except Xiao Huahua be killed. We must do this cleanly, the bald man said coldly. The meaning is already very clear. Chase. There were traces of witchcraft in the air, including footprints on the ground caused by gravity, which were enough to prove that the opponent was carrying a heavy load and naturally could not run fast. The 9 people did not stop. In order to prevent Xiao Huahua and the other person from waking up and escaping, they simply grabbed the 2 of them and chased after them at high speed. Sure enough, in just a moment, the sharp-eyed bald man saw a woman running away quickly with someone on her back under the cover of night. The woman's strength seemed to be at the peak of the second rate. The bald man sneered, accelerated like lightning, and grabbed the man on the woman's back with eagle-like claws. You can't run away. Yaxiang, who was trying to escape at all costs, suddenly had her eardrum burst. She felt a cold wind coming from behind her, so she could only dodge and rolled out sideways while holding Suyu. The other 8 people followed and looked at the man and woman in front of them with unfriendly eyes. Yaxiang had already risen from the ground, her beautiful face icy, a dagger in hand, staring intently at the men before her. Her numerous scars surprised the scarred-faced leader, who then showed a touch of admiration. As for the boy she was protecting, it was hard to tell if he was any good or bad. His face was pale, and a strange magical power emanated from his body, as if he were seriously ill. Scarface was stunned for a moment, then suddenly said, I'll take the woman away. Don't worry, she won't tell anyone. I'll take less credit for this.